really only learn through your failures.
I think in a couple of months, we're going to be at like $200,000 a month payroll.
4 stars. I'm chasing the
Let's roll, baby. All right, well, gentlemen, welcome to the podcast studio. Thank you. Kyle, we've never met before now, so I'm excited to talk to you, maybe slightly more than Neal here. But Neal, Big Daddy, dude, we go back a little bit. So I'm excited to have you guys in the studio. Thanks for joining me. And I know Neal's got the conversation topics, but I'm hoping we can just start off, with some low-hanging fruit as to
Let's roll.
What's been going on with everybody. And
For sure.
who wants to take it away over there?
Kyle?
For sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having
course.
me here. Obviously, we know each other for different reasons. I feel like Tom and I, we've known each other just through the internet, kind of, and crossed paths without actually crossing paths. So today's a day that breaks,
Today is
right?
that day.
But excited to be here, and it's fun to be on a podcast where we're actually all in the similar industries, so we can actually talk shop, which I think it's the industry everyone wants to be a part of right now. Rather than picking somebody's brain about and them being like, oh, no way, I don't know, like they don't know what Facebook ads are. This is one of those things where we can actually really help people and inform them on stuff and, practical, knowledge and things.
Well, I'm hoping
let's talk about that first. How did you guys get into the industry? Because internet money-making industry, like you said, it's a hot topic right now.
I guess I'll start. So do the quick thing. But when I was young, I started a recording studio and did that for a while. And you're getting behind. I was like, what is he doing? So I started doing that. Got into recording that way. People started asking for music videos, and I started doing music videos. And then that turned into I was graduating college at the time, and I was like, I need to either start a new business. You remember Plasti Dip?
Yeah.
I used to have a Plasti Dip business. I used to do that.
I kind of remember that.
So I was doing that for a while, but unrelated. But anyway, I had gotten decent at taking photos and having a social media page and running some ads and making money. So I had done that. But anyway, graduated college, and I was like, I need to do something different. So I started Innova Digital, and it was just kind of like a digital company. Like, we'll do this.
What was your first project? Who was your first client?
My dad. Shouts out to Dad. He was a money manager, and so I would naturally I started. I was like, oh, and I'll just put out that I do this sort of stuff, and people will come knocking. And it was like nobody, but he's like, hey, if you want to film some videos with me, I'll pay. And I was like, cool. So I don't know if he was probably was pretty close to my first client. I had some other ones. We've grown since, but one of my first, I guess, kind of big clients or place that gave me work was Iron Gate. So that's
where I remember you from. Yeah.
I shot with Chicago Motor Cars with Steve when they had the jewelry box
for sure
little location up front. And then from just going out to their cars or Chrome and Coffee, got into working with Tom and Iron Gate. So did that. And then, progressively as time went on, I decided to just do less and less because people were like, oh, looks like you just do a lot of video, but it says websites on your website. I'm like, yeah, well, don't really and so we've had maybe a website project or two in the last however many years. So, I think all business owners can probably relate that, you shoot wide. And then
I think that's the shiny object syndrome. When you're starting a business, you're like, oh, I'm going to do everything. And I'm going to take all the projects I can possibly get. And then you realize that you get good at one thing, and that one thing can make you a lot of money, and then you stick with it.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, and a lot of money. We'll see. So I ended up just choosing video, and I guess content of that nature. And then the podcast studio kind of came about as a merging of the old and the new. So, I had experience with audio, and I think similar to Plasti Dip, I saw the trend that people were doing it, and I'm a big fan of service-based businesses because it's usually pretty easy to get into, and it's you're just marking up your time, so you can usually make a good chunk of money. The hard costs are pretty low, so the podcast studio just made sense because no one else, even still to now, is there's not a whole lot of public podcast studios that
you can just book a spot in.
So, and so I know they out there, they exist, but. It's been good, and named it something stupid, just Chicago Podcast Studio, but the SEO's been really good.
Great. I was about to say SEO
has been good to us. So that's how I got into it. But I don't do too much ads. I run ads for this business, but I'm sure I can learn from you guys today.
So content. Kyle, how'd you get into the internet money making? Golden goose business.
Always been into entrepreneurship, whatever. And before it was cool. It doesn't really matter, but I guess you kind of slowly learn along the way, what's better and better. When I was 11, I fixed iPhones, went into wholesaling computers, got into cars. then, you know, I really loved camera stuff. I'd spend all my money on camera gear. So you're shooting like high school basketball games, whatever, just for fun. And then eventually kind of combined those two passions when I realized, you know, I started learning about Facebook ads in like 2014, 15. And now, obviously, as you would know, even better than me, with, you know, some different things you could do with Facebook ads, I was selling it to dealerships as like this product of like, hey, I can do your content and max, you know, with ads. And back then you spend $1, you got like 6,000 clicks. It was ridiculous. Maybe not that much, but still. And I sold that as a product rather than kind of starting my own thing. But that eventually led me into starting, you know, my agency, Sulkar Media, and also led me into where you were in Iron Gate. I actually had an office in Iron Gate with Rob, my old partner at Cairo. So started a partnership back then, kind of doing the same thing, because my thing was more the business side of it, like running the ads, kind of controlling all of that stuff. And I knew how to do, you know, content to a degree, but he was like the professional best video guy ever. He still, I think is, you know, he's still
the GOAT to me. I look up to him.
Yeah. So like, you know, I kind of went to him and I was like, hey, I really want to start running this campaign for what I do. You know, I've got a budget. Like back then it was like crazy to me. I was like, I'll give you like $3,000. And then he's like, why would we do that? We were at like a hookah lounge. He's like, why would we do that? He's like, let's just partner and make a business. And I was like, I'm down. So then we did that in like 2016. Ended up not working out just because same thing with partners, their marriages or whatever. I think two people trying to do the same thing at the same time, it's difficult. We both want to do content. We both want to do the business. And it got tough because we had, you know, age difference and stuff like that. But either way, we still keep in contact. That was a great learning experience. And then eventually, you know, in 2018, I discovered e-commerce with my buddy George. He ran up this company, Lux Mobile, that did like $10 million in sales that year. When I met him, I didn't believe him, found out, believed him. So I started to learn that whole game and kind of started drifting away a little bit from the agency side, getting a little more into e-commerce and just online offers, ads, etc. Just realizing.
Tell us about fitness bands.
Going from there, yeah, fitness bands, right? So during COVID, I mean, I had a lot of different failed ventures before. Obviously, we all have failures under our belts, but that was a concept that came, you know, late February 2020. I was kind of like testing different products, and then I came across, you know, fitness bands. And I decided that, hey, like, let me test this out. And that was the first product in e-commerce it was like a clear, this is a winner. So I like took all the money I had and I just ordered the largest shipment of all time. Yeah. Like I just kind of took a bet on it. And I was like, and then lockdown was like a week or two later and I already had this business that was generating a couple $1,000s a day. And I was like, okay, like this is it. Like I have all this inventory coming in. And then lockdown hit. And then I was like, all right, I literally like my 1-bedroom apartment, my whole desk, I was like, I'm going to just lock in. I'm not going to talk to anyone. I have no FOMO. And I built the business, you know, we did crazy numbers. We did like, you know, $500,000 the first month and then, you know, another 500 a month after that. And obviously things fizzled out because of the product market fit went away and people competed and whatever. But we were essentially, when Amazon had no product and people were just catching on to the whole gyms being shut down, we were the ones who had the product. So that's why that worked. But yeah, so a little bit of everything and now pivoting into some healthcare stuff. So I think that's where you come in, where I want to hear about how you're doing and what you've pivoted to do. Because when I met you, you were a consultant,
right?
And
right.
Now you're not.
So are you still in automotive?
As little as I want to be.
Gotcha.
Like as little as possible.
He's still an automotive fan.
I still love cars.
Sure, he drove something cool, and he's got a YouTube
channel. And Kyle was, Kyle, you were flipping cars for a while, I think, too.
Oh, that's always going to be part of the DNA. It's just like it's one of those things where, like, yeah, cars are investments to me. So
Kyle's got a cool YouTube channel about BMWs and. Right?
Yeah, I would love to pivot it as much as possible. But yeah, I mean, I love cars. Obviously, I just hate.
Get him some views,
like,
y'all.
I want to chat about that too.
Of course, I would love to
put a pin in that too. But
that's fine.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's fine. Well, yeah, we can talk about cars and watches today too.
For sure.
I'll be good.
Yeah, what the?
I know. I'm a shitty Movado. We'll talk about this. It's a good topic.
For sure.
So I'm in body sculpting and facial aesthetics marketing, and it's a very small but also big sub niche. You could say it's not a niche; it's a sub niche. So I think 2019, my cousin and I were doing creative work, so websites, brand strategy, and we had some good healthcare projects, some tech, some services. We're just kind of all over the map. We talked about this, just offering everything, and we created a website and brand for a body sculpting startup in Chicago, and they wanted us to do ads, and I was like, of course we do ads. Come on, come on. you guys know that, right? So I think I drew up this campaign. It was basically this lady holding up a sign that said Cool Sculpt, or whatever their machine was called. I don't even remember it now, but it was like, the machine is greater than Cool Sculpting.
Yeah.
Right. And then everybody was like, this sucks. And then like the first month though, we got like $3 leads, right? We got like $300 leads. And I was like, wow. And this is right around lockdowns. They decided to shut down. And I was like, guys, don't shut down. Like, this is going to pop. So then I just kind of sat on it for a while. I got tired of hunting for projects because, like, recurring revenue is really where we all want to be at some point if we're not already. But I was like, okay, I gotta pivot. So I was really passionate about helping small businesses. I really enjoy helping people in general. So I was like, okay, we have to get away from big projects where we have to hunt for relationships all the time. We're at a risk of getting fired for X, Y, and Z at any point. So I decided to hire a coach. His name is Joel Kaplan. He's awesome. He got coached by Hermosi.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. That's how I met Eddie actually as well, in his program. And I was doing a chiropractor's at first, and I got told no 35 times. Yeah. And I was like, man, I really like chiropractors as people, but like as clients, they're kind of shitty. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it's not them. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's just not the right fit. Maybe I need to do some inner work. So I thought about body sculpting, and I was like, man, it's like more and more people are looking for more convenient ways to look better, feel better. And I thought about my campaign. I was like, okay, well, it worked before. Maybe it will work again. So I started running these campaigns as a test, and it was just there. It was working really well. And I was like, okay, I think we have something good going on. And when I went into Joel's program, there was already guys that were doing this for a couple of years. So I would basically listen to all of their complaints on coaching calls. Like, these people are complaining about my inability to do X, Y, and Z, and then I would want to fix it. So then, we started as a lead gen company, which I think everybody started as a lead gen company, and Facebook forums, and and then you realized, as time went on, when you first started, I think we could all attest to this. Like, you could put up an ad, so many people would opt in, and then like people would actually convert, and you're like, this works. Yeah. But over time, with
the gold rush,
right,
back when things were good.
Yeah.
But with market saturation, so many offers out there, bots, all that stuff, you just had to be smarter, right? Yeah. So then that's when we really had to go to work and say, okay, we got to do lead gen, we got to help clients do lead conversion, and then we got into sales coaching as well, but I'll get into that later. So we are body sculpting aesthetics, but 150 plus clients right now. We're going to be at about 250 by the end of the year. That's our goal. And I think the addressable market of qualified providers is about, I want to say like 5 to 10,000. So we got a long runway. And the next thing we're going to do is facial aesthetics, because it's adjacent. It's about the same process. So we kind of want to do body and face, but that's our niche right now. And
it's going well.
We're sticking to it. We're sticking to it. Yeah.
So when I started doing this, one of my first clients, which I don't know, you might not know this guy, but he was I used to work with him. Does the name Prior Design ring a bell?
Yeah.
Okay. And so it was right by our office was actually right by that Elmhurst dealership. So anyway, I was working for Prior Design at the time. This guy was a client of ours, and he has a med spa in Schaumburg. Actually, I guess I'll give you his information. You can hit him up and say that Tom, he deserves it. But anyway, I had a similar thing. I did some ads where he had a med spa, and I remember that was like a good experience, but a bad one, because I was able to get some leads for him. Yeah. And then I would be like, he would have some other chick, like his desk chick, call, and then she wouldn't close them. Or like, and I get it, like, of 10 leads, not everyone's going to close and stuff like that. But she'd call one time, like, oh, they didn't answer. I'm like, okay, well then call back tomorrow. Like,
I think that's the biggest problem, is like it's not that it's a bad system. It's just closing like the feedback loop, right?
Yeah.
Like I've always told everyone, I'm like the issue with working for automotive dealerships for somebody is like I could sell $100,000 7 Series through a Facebook ad, but like me taking credit for that, it's never going to happen because there's so many other factors that go in between that. It's like a non-trackable event. Even if they filled out this form that said buyer intent super high, it's like, so that's where e-commerce or even like, for example, a service-based business like that, where you can prove it. It's not just like, here's an Excel spreadsheet of leads. It's like, hey, we're actually like making sure like cash to close, like it's
direct attribution.
Because otherwise you're just giving somebody something and like they don't, it's like a manual car and you don't know how to drive it. It's like the car could be super nice, but if you don't know how to drive it, so you give, you know, these services for people, it's one of those things where if you can just close that loop, you can charge whatever you want because you're actually, I mean, granted profit margins and stuff like that. But I think to your point, like we all go through it though.
Well, right? And so have you, and again, you guys might do this sort of stuff for people more than I do at this point. But that was the other thing for me. It's like you can deliver like a soft pitch up and it's like, you know, here's somebody that's interested, like call them, talk to them, try to close them. But if there like isn't a sales team to support, or if they're just not good at their job, or like, you know, I feel, do you get pushback from people where you're like, here are all these leads, and then they're like, well, I called John Smith and he didn't pick up, or he said like, I didn't submit to this for, you know, like I don't even know what you're talking about. And
I think everybody's looking for value add nowadays, right? And in your case, the value add could be like, here's the content, but here's also how you use it to get good results, right? Sure. Which sometimes people struggle with it. In our case, you know, like an evolution of, you could say, demand generation marketing, it was, okay, we're going to hand you the lead. It's important how we hand you the lead. Then we realize when we hand them the lead, even if we can put together a good nurturing sequence, they rarely had the expertise, time, attitude to be able to convert those leads into actual clients. So then we said, okay, we got to take that off their plate. So we said, okay, we're going to actually put together the automations, but we're going to do the closing ourselves. We call it appointment closers, where we would call, text, email, voicemail drop, whatever we could to get in touch with that client, because it does take a few touch points at some point. And you're like you were saying, somebody's like, I called them, they didn't pick up, they're not interested, they're not a qualified lead. You know, and it's like, that's not taking individual responsibility. So when you take individual responsibility, you're like, okay, this person opted in, they're interested, I'm going to get a hold of them, I'm going to try them 10 times until they tell me to fuck off or yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you got people that will do that on your behalf, and then it's like you can go to the client and be like, these are actually confirmed appointments, they're coming in Tuesday at 6.
Correct. So what we actually do, to Kyle's point, is we get their credit card and a deposit on file, so they have skin in the game, right? So then we also send them appointment reminders. So it's basically end-to-end, very transparent, attribution marketing. And then what we added recently is also coaching our clients on how to convert them in a high paying customer, which was, you know, the coaching aspect we all know has been huge. So we added that because we realized like, okay, now we're getting a lot of clients in the door. Some of our clients maybe aren't converting where they want to be. Let's teach them how to actually put together a sales journey for the first customer visit. And that was another game changer.
Did you do like training and stuff? Because I remember like, you know, I would see these leads come in and I was like kind of pissed at this desk chick, you know, she'd call one time and do nothing. So I was like, fuck it, like I'll call these people basically, you know, just to do that. But like I don't know about cool sculpting and like fucking the blood shit on your face. Like I don't know that stuff. So yeah, like PRP, like I don't know these
vampire facials.
Yeah, like I don't know this sort of stuff. So like, do you guys?
Yeah, so we actually, my director of operations, she comes from a med spa. And ironically enough, I give her a big shout out because she's an amazing human being and she's super talented, super hardworking, super smart. She was doing lead conversion for an actual med spa before I even knew what lead conversion was. So when we had that conversation, I'm like, yes, you're coming to work with me, obviously. She, you know, she had her own demands. We made it happen. And because she was like, converting like thousands of leads a month, like unheard
her value,
unheard of. Oh, she
wasn't
did
playing shit.
Yeah, she did, and she don't want to just be, you know, she don't want to be in that role forever. So, so she trained the staff, and then as we grew our staff, then they trained others. But we have all the, you know, basically all the scripts around all the treatments that we market, and you know, a lot of it is just human connection, right? Even though we live in this AI automated world, it's like people still want to talk to people. So a lot of my competitors, they would outsource to Philippines or other places. And there's a lot of good talent there, but it's people in America want to talk to people in America. So we said, okay, we got to build a US based appointment closing team that's going to be able to be successful with talking to these people. So, and then we train them on the treatments. Yeah.
Well, all right. And I don't just because I don't want to get too agency driven right off the bat. Let's go back to some fun stuff. Neal, you're one tan as fuck. You in the last year maybe moved to Georgia, and out
Blue
on
Georgia.
Huh? Rural Georgia?
No, Blue Ridge.
Blue Ridge, Georgia. All right. But how has that been? I see you. I mean, out there, I feel like you were a Chicago boy before, and now what made you want to move out
from
to
vodka sodas to cold plunges?
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Kyle and I were running the streets back when. It's been different. So the whole idea was to do a life experiment, right? And just say, I'm just going to put everything behind, assuming that I can survive this. I can probably do anything else I want in my life. So I said goodbye. I put it, everything's functioning as supposed to here in Chicago. I built a house, didn't know anybody. It was just a really amazing place. And I was like, okay, I need to be in a place where other people vacation. Just a place that's quiet, that's tranquil, that's beautiful. And I started my life there.
Been nice?
It's been amazing.
Well,
it's actually a perfect place to focus.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess you probably, don't, I mean, you might have some local clients, but all your clients probably throughout the U.S. and like teams probably all remote for the most part. And so, I mean, you can run something like that, which I've always appreciated, because that would be like sick, if you didn't have to live in Chicago. I mean, I love Chicago, but like if you could go down to a place that's more out there and get more land and like have a home, that's like pretty sweet. But unfortunately for this,
you're stuck with Colton right now.
I'm stuck with Colton and everything else. We can't do these remote and video stuff as of now.
We'll have to get a podcast studio in my house next.
Yeah, exactly.
I can do it. We could do it, Neal. It's we'll have to talk prices off the side here. But,
over here.
we do builds, so we could hook you up with one. But all right. Well, so Kyle, I want to hear about you though. So we talked off camera a little bit that you're going through some moving changes and stuff, and I think you've been in Chicago at least as long as I've known. You're like in the area, let's say.
Yeah, even back then I lived here. I went to like UIC down here, so I've been here for like 8
USC,
years. Used to like live in the burbs. But
how much did you learn in college, Kyle?
Oh man,
I remember Kyle used to like
he
used to complain to me so much. He was like, I have this paper.
Yeah,
no, I know.
It's terrible, especially like trying to run a business.
Oh, the hood of the car. Yeah, I know you had some comment about that. I feel the same way. I mean, you did. You went to college.
I went to Loyola.
Okay,
that's it. Right. I mean, we don't have to spend much time.
It's not a good
here.
investment. I mean, but it can't. I mean, I'm like, if I kind of like the fact that I went, because I can tell people like, okay, not like I went, but like I could tell people like, hey, I could tell you it's not a good idea, but I went. So you should probably just do the same. Yeah. But like, there's some things that you can definitely do with whatever.
And I think regardless, there's a little bit of not clout, but like.
For sure, and also,
I at least went through this.
Yeah, like I wrote like a LinkedIn article way back on it. It was like what I learned from college was didn't have anything to do with like the course material. It's just kind of like, I mean, I already dealt with the real world. I know you guys did too, but it's just kind of like all this like BS, especially with like government systems and stuff like that, which is like totally like, abstract thinking. But like I just went through a bunch of crap with like, everything, like as far as like scheduling and stuff like that. But anyways, been here for 7-8 years. Now I'm in West Loop. I used to live in like University Village, South Loop area where Neal was at also. And I mean, now with the office and stuff, I've had the Iron Gate. I had some offices before that, and then I had the office in Elmhurst now for like 7 years. We're moving out in like a couple weeks.
7 years, that's crazy.
Yeah, the variable of like there to the other location to now, like 4 years ago, we built out this whole thing,
Are you moving back to the city?
I live in the city.
No, the office. Are you moving the office back?
I'm planning to.
Or no office?
My goal is to do this. I want to buy a house, which I already have a house that I'm going to purchase, and then renovate
Write it off.
that build it into a house that's worth more and build it into a studio. Because I'm like, I don't really need a storefront anymore. It's not really the way I'm taking the business. I really just need a garage, some rooms, and like
put a camera in every room, write the whole thing off.
Exactly. Equitable asset, laminate floor, some cameras, call it a day. But to your point with, you know, being locked onto a location, I know it's like everyone with like a MacBook's dream right now to like not have to work like anywhere and do anything, which I get it. But I think the biggest point is like leverage, right? Just like infinite, like he's saying like focus and like leverage by being over there. Like he can do whatever it is that he wants outside, and he comes in like laser focus. And sometimes I feel like us as creatives, we get too caught up in like the hustle and the grind of it, and it seems fulfilling because you're doing this project and then the project gets done and your client's so happy. But it's like, especially being in like good creative, that's like it's not outsourceable like at all, which is like outsourceable. I don't mean like Philippines exactly or whatever, wherever it may be, but it just means like your skill set's constantly being pushed, which means that like, unless you could keep charging more and more, but like you'll never have that lifestyle if I don't know.
No, you still need to be the guy hit and go and things, you know?
Yeah. And which is great. I think it's cool. It's fun. It's just like, it's nice to start building more things that have that like ability to scale.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
like
like
a little bit more removed from and could do. Yeah. I mean,
for sure. And like, that's where you even go to like physical products versus digital products, which is he's more digital side, which is like, you don't even have to touch anything. Well, you do obviously. And that's where, you know, software and all this other stuff comes into play, or, you know, courses and coaching and, and back end, you know, stuff like that, services. But it all just comes down to like, what can you provide to the client? Like, can I close that loop? Like if you can close the loop without having to deliver a product or to show up anywhere, like, yeah, you can live that. You can go buy a house wherever you want and live that lifestyle and have infinite clients if you're good at managing teams. And I think that's where, you know, we'll get a lot of insight from Neal today on how he's doing that. So excited to hear.
We can only hope, but I want to talk more. I want to talk about a little bit more about you. So I know Big Daddy over here so you have We Do in this, but like
they do.
We do.
So they do. I mean, they do still operates, and it's more ad hoc creative work, but ultimately, it just stayed as a parent company.
Okay, and so this is like
so. Patient Engines are DBA, right? And
that's what's bringing. That's the thing.
That's the thing.
That's what's paying for that new Jeep Rubicon.
That's right.
And so I'm pretty similar, where it's like I have Innova Digital and Chicago Podcast Studio, but that is what comes together. But I want to hear from you, because I know that you've had things, you know, like you said, come up and come down, and I know you are into watching. I know you're into cars. I know you're into this, that, and the other thing. Yeah. You don't need to completely unveil, but like, is your life and your big pool of money, you got like a whole bunch of different income streams, or like what do you do? Like what's the main squeeze these days?
That's fun. Yeah, no. So that's a good part about owning a media company, I feel like, because everything kind of just fits in there. Like you can do so many different things, and it kind of works as like a parent company. I think there's reasons why, instead of, you know, we're not getting into it, but LLCs versus S corps, whatever. You should probably have multiple for different things, just for tax reasons, whatever. I'm not a financial advisor, but I think, you know, we talked about it before on Instagram. Like everything that I put money into, I traditionally try and get a return out of. And I wanted it because Neal had this on his notes for like travel. I think anything we like to spend money on, we like to justify why it's a good investment, right? Whether I tell you I buy cars because they make me money, or because I can use it for this, or why Neal travels and gets some Zen moment that makes him millions of dollars, or watches the same thing. However, just being able to retain money over time, I think is definitely a good way for anybody who's like up and coming, who doesn't really have any financial backing, because like I personally didn't. Because any money you get kind of just stays in the funnel, which gets thrown away to Chicago rent and, you know, different stuff, office rent and camera gear that gets outdated in a couple of years, fine. But as far as like income streams, I mean, I've been running the agency for a super long time. Obviously, I'm trying to thin out my clients there, because I just feel like even if I don't know, I love video production and everything that comes with content, but even if you're charging $7,000, $8,000 for a commercial, on paper it sounds great. And then you go there and then you film, which is great. And then you go there again because they want something else. And then you're like, well, you're charging a lot, so like whatever, I'll go there. Then you go there again a couple more times, and you're like, oh, it's fine. I mean, it could be a big check. And then revisions this, here, there. Even if you're really stern about the revisions, like, oh, we only do 3. Are you going to not let them get a 4th one? It's a good client, whatever. Oh, then we want this, whatever it may be. Then
it's classic.
3 months go by, you can't film this because there's Christmas decorations. So you got to go back another month. You do that. You come back. All this stuff is done. The video finally gets finished, and then you wait for an invoice for a month. It gets sent to the wrong mailbox, and then you finally get the check, and you're like, by that time, you're just like, I forgot I even did this project. So stuff like that to me, I don't want to do anymore. So that was an income stream for a long time. I never really scaled it like crazy, to be honest with you. I would do it like video stuff like on the side because I was focused more on like these like social media clients, which another thing. I started that business in like 2015, 16. I was way more passionate about like managing social medias and doing stuff like that back then. I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole anymore. But so that's one stream. We've had some pretty big clients for inventory photos for cars.
And that's what I was like thinking. So I know you do like video projects unrelated to automotive, but the agency side and like the running ads and stuff like that is for dealerships specifically.
But we've done it for multiple different e-commerce projects as well, and like products. Like I really like, CRO, anything, conversion rate optimization, stuff like that, like building out websites. I like it, but I'm just like kind of don't want to do it as like as an agency anymore, just because like I think the biggest thing, Hermosi talks about this all the time, like doing a bunch of things versus doing like one thing well. Like all of like any really big leaps have came from like me focusing on like closing that loop, right? Like building something, building the site, figuring out the fulfillment, like figuring out the ads, doing everything myself, and then being able to control that end result and scaling it. Because most of my ideas, I'll tell somebody, like even if it's, the fitness band company, house gym, like if I like told somebody I'm going to do this, I had so many people like, that's so stupid. It's not going to work.
People are dumb.
No one likes these things.
That's the worst, man.
Exactly.
Which is like, that happens all the time.
Whatever. Right. Like then that's cool. But like, then you're doing 20 grand a day and they want to be your best friend because they're like, oh, like you have any work for me or whatever.
I knew you would do.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like, I know that's the most cliche thing in the world, but my point is with income streams, I do that. But now really it's all just from building offers online, whether it's physical products or, I've done a lot of stuff in like healthcare and stuff and managing any cash flow that comes in. But I don't know. I know I kind of want to
ask you a difficult question.
Go ahead.
So we talked about master of one versus master of none.
Yeah.
So where are you going to go? What niche?
Honestly, like the one niche I want to start avoiding is this, like doing content for like I know one can see what I'm not pointing at anything, but like the whole what I've been doing has not got me where I've like wanted to go. Like I would rather do more of it for my own self, and that's not even being like selfish. It's like I'd rather be here with you guys, like actually like helping other people than being like just delivering a service constantly. So my niche, I would say there's more niches within that niche. It's more geared towards using the resources I have and the knowledge I have in the creative space and combining it with knowledge I have in the advertising space. And then also with, we have a full built out fulfillment center for any product-based stuff we want to do and just continually just
so helping e-commerce, consumer goods companies scale.
Yeah, that's something that we're working on. Like and not even
careful,
maybe
Eddie.
Consumers
careful, Eddie.
Getting into it.
Does he want...
They don't do fulfillment stuff, but
it is more like a consulting,
they do.
Course knowledge mentorship thing.
That's something that I've considered.
Is it done with you? Done for you?
Right. Yeah. That's something I've considered. I haven't like fully went that direction yet because I've had like some other investments I've been working on. But like I think that's the next goal for me. It's just like leverage. There's less inputs, more outputs. The more you film, the more you get out there, the more you drive traffic to it, the better. Versus just things that, I'm giving away my time and days because, I just look at all the time. I'm 26 now. And how old are you, by the way? 28. Like, you think about like all the time that Neal's like Big 45, but no, I'm kidding. 40
guys.
You're 33?
33.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle's very accomplished, man.
No, I'm not. I'm seriously not. I just think like, I want to like, sometimes I look back at things and I'm like.
Big numbers you're dropping.
I look at it, I'm like, damn, I wasted so much time on that. And I feel like now when you get older, you start thinking about that. I'm like, if I just keep doing only like client projects for the next 4 years and I'm 30, I'm look back, no matter how much you scaled that, right? Which we all know how difficult that is to scale. You have nothing left for yourself. Like, it's not like, and it's funny. I saw your video, your story of like you're filming. And I literally, I know I was going to see you, but I literally in my head, I saw him like, I wish he posted more. Cause I saw like the screen, like the field recorder, and I'm like, that looks so sick. But I know you guys are like working on client projects, which is like, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's super sick. Yeah. It's just really hard to scale and like being able to like show that stuff. Cause to me, I would love to see it. And like everyone thinks I take pictures of cars for a living. So they're like, cause I don't put it on Instagram or anything. And
we talked about this before you came in, and I was like, none of us are I mean, I wasn't even brand focused at all. And I mean, brand being like behind the scenes, like,
Or like content.
what it
for
really
your own
comes down to,
stuff.
right? Like, because people are like, "You're just a nutcase who lives in the woods."
Well,
and
I think nowadays
That's partially true.
it's become more and more just like apparent that you kind of have to be a personality in business now. And not, I mean, it's not like an absolute must, but it's like, you know, free real estate in people's heads and stuff like that. And like Eddie's a good example. Like he's a character. He's very well known within the industry and probably gets a lot of attention for that. And yeah, I am so bad. If you look at our Instagram for Innova, it's like I've posted like twice in the last like year, and it's.
I wasn't actually looking. I didn't like.
No, you're good.
I didn't
You're
like
good.
screen your. I just saw the thing and I know like personally like.
But
you know.
it's
that's why paid ads are so good, though.
it's
you
been
build it once.
it's been tough, you know.
That's why they're so good.
Yeah.
Before you guys got here, I was telling Colton, I was like, you know, this year I wanted to put a little bit more eggs in the basket of like a personal brand, and not because I actually like want to or like care to be like out there and stuff, but just because I think it's like so necessary. And I think like all of us, it's like, you know, for now, this is what's going on, but like.
Yeah.
I think 5 years from now, I'll look back and be like, I'm probably doing something a little bit different or, you know, a side angle. And it's like, you know, you don't want to build up the businesses and then just be a ghost to yourself, you know? So I feel like if you kind of build your own persona and character up, it'll transfer better to future ventures and stuff. But it's tough. And especially for, you know, we do it for ourselves. Like I have the ability, like I could do dope shit and like you film YouTube videos for yourself that are great. And it's like, but there's something, once you do it for a living, it's like kind of the last thing you want to do it for yourself, right?
Of course.
And so I appreciate you saying that. And it's like, I find the same thing. It's like that one little behind the scenes clip is pretty much like all I have from that. And it's like any other shoot. It's just
I don't do it either. So I'm not like bragging on you. I'm just saying like, I'm speaking to my own self because I'm sure there's a lot of people like us who are like, man, like they really look up to your work.
To document it. Well, I see plenty of like YouTubers that are in the filmmaking space that have like these crazy behind the scenes videos. And you know that there's just a lot of work and they probably paid someone to be there for the whole day filming the behind the scenes of another commercial.
Yeah, for sure.
And I like watching them because it's like, that is the information that I'd like to like see, you know, for certain people it's behind the scenes stuff, but it's tough, man. But yeah, I think you probably are the most public of us at this point. Neal, you guess a little bit, right?
I mean,
I don't really
for me, like like I said, I scaled with paid ads and that's what I do. Practice what you preach kind of stuff. I scaled, I mean, when we talk about marketing channels, for us, it's been paid ads, client referrals, strategic partnerships, social media outreach, and I would say we've done some email marketing. It hasn't really panned out for us so well because email is so cluttered nowadays. But I would say conferences have been pretty good for us as well. So those are like our 5 marketing channels that we use. And my focus going forward is on content. And that's where, you know, guys like Joel and Eddie, who I respect a lot, who are in my community, they just absolutely grew tremendously. And it's people recognize, they see the value they're giving out. So to me, I have an opportunity in my space to become an authority in my niche because there's not a lot of, you could say, iconic figures in aesthetics who have proven case studies that have grown a lot of businesses. So it's definitely, there's an opportunity and this is a time. I think organic content can bring a lot of good qualified business to you and your life. And, you know, it forces you to become a little uncomfortable. And then
I think like what you're saying with you, like, cause I obviously love paid ads. That's where, you know, a lot of my bigger successes in life came from. All organic content is just free paid ads that takes a lot of effort. It's like, that's all it is. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Because obviously paid ads are scalable and whatever else, but then you realize for so many years, people are like, oh, YouTube channel, blah, blah, blah. It's like all YouTube is a way for people to view an advertisement potentially, or could be free to the creator.
Just a different form of influence or attention.
That's it, right? So if you value paid ads so much, which that's what I tell myself every day, I'm like, if you care so much about paid ads and you think they're the best thing on earth, like maybe you don't have to specifically be Neal, the cool sculpting vampire facial guy. That'd be cool. But like to your point, I think that's what scares us is like, you're like, I might be doing something slightly different in 5 years, and we all might.
Yeah.
But, so it's kind of like, how can you build a brand just around like what it is that you're doing? And I'm not great at it at all. And I got my phases of not doing anything, but I think that's what people, if anything, would want to see, even if it's just ourselves, like looking back on it.
I think that's a perfect segue because I did want to put a pin in with you when we were talking about your channel. I guess I'll just bring up me on this topic where it's like you want to become the authority on this sort of stuff. I did a couple of YouTube videos. I think you saw about this podcast space, and I didn't plan for it to be like a thing. And not that it really is a thing, but now I have some small YouTube following, but plenty of people like hit me up and like, oh, I saw the video and, you know, want to do this and do that, which is great. I was happy to put the information out, but now, you know, I would like, now that there is some subscribers on the YouTube, it's like, I'd like to leverage that and like kind of have it be more personal. And so whether I want to talk about this or Innova Digital, I mean, it's actually, that's the host of the page, but like now I feel like I'm kind of pigeonholed to talking about podcast related stuff. And I know with your YouTube channel, you're the BMW guy. And so do you have that pull, or do you feel like pressure or like what is, where are you sitting with that now that you want to maybe,
I feel, and I think to your point, like, just like, for example, that video went like semi-viral of your podcast stuff. Like, it's kind of, it's a blessing and a curse, because now every video you post after that's probably not going to do as well right away. And it's going to make you feel way like discouraged. And then number two, as far as I go, like the BMW thing, like I started it off as like, I mean, I've been doing YouTube since like 07 and then like never worked, always trying to do videos when I was a kid, always. And then like, this channel is from 2012. I tried different stuff. I tried making business content, which was like not really a thing 4 years ago. Maybe it was, but like I didn't do it that well. And then I started making some car videos and they started doing really well. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to keep doing these and growing the audience. But you know, there's only so many videos you want to do around a car, reading off the specs and telling everyone what the horsepower is, that it's just like some bland car. Like there's really not that many cool cars out there. So I think slowly I wanted to make it more of like a thing where people were kind of embraced as more, I don't want to say vlog, but you know what I mean? Like lifestyle kind of thing where there was like business cars, you know, maybe a little bit of fitness sprinkled in there.
Right? I mean, I think
that's ideally what you want to go towards. And to your point, like that's the thing where I'm like, is every video gonna have to be structured around some car that I'm buying or selling or whatever? And obviously now like getting out of the BMW world to a degree, not fully, but like, it's like, okay, well, the people who want to stay. And I actually did a podcast with, I had interviewed somebody for their college class, and he was like, I really love the fact that you are the exact thing that I want to be. Like, he's like, I love cars, I love business, and I love like fitness and everything you talk about. And I'm like, that motivates me to want to post more, because I think like those aren't the videos that are gonna go viral, right? If I have the newest BMW M3 and I post that, like it's gonna get 10x more views. But it's like, well, I don't really care about those views that much, because it's like that's not what's gonna grow the channel over time or keep people coming back. You know?
Impact over impressions.
Exactly.
I know Eddie posted something on his story or on his page, and it was like something really genuine, and it got a good amount of views. And then he posted something really controversial and it got shitload of views, like almost went viral.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we have to like make decisions, right? Like I said spicy content. But like true. The spicy content I think does well. Yeah. It's also, there's, you could say levels to it.
For sure.
And how controversial you want to become. But ultimately you have to ask yourself what your intention is.
Yep.
Like Kyle was just talking about, like, kind of, you could say helping people, right? Yeah. Helping people become better. So it's like, I don't think you have to segregate like making a lot of money and helping people. You can do both at the same time. For sure. There's a lot of big figures that we follow that have done that same exact thing. Hormozy, Cardone, all those guys. But I think ultimately the question is, what's my intention? What's my end goal? And we were talking about posting more. I think people are interested in the story and how you get there. Because that's all we're doing is telling stories, right? Every single service, every single product helps to change a human being's life in some way. So what kind of story are we telling, I think, here?
And I feel like, you know, I guess just going back to the YouTube thing, like I feel like I see plenty of people that, you know, most YouTube channels have some sort of theme, and sometimes it's more about the person than like what they're in. But even like, you know, somebody like Tavares or something like that, like he's a car guy. Like, yes, he does that, but that's kind of his thing. And so if he was like, I want to talk about gaming PCs, all of a sudden people would be like, what the fuck, you know?
That's
but
true.
like personally, I feel like I'm usually, if I'm going to watch someone, I'm interested enough in them that like if they decided to go left, like I'd at least be like willing to entertain it or like support it, you know? Like, again, I think, you know, I watch plenty of YouTubers that talk about watches and stuff, and like you go there expecting that. And if, you know, a big watch guy decided to just talk about boats all of a sudden, you'd be like, okay, a little strange, but like, I don't know. To me, I think you kind of have to be you. And I think
For
you're just
sure.
going to end up changing and stuff like that. And I think
Yeah.
that unfortunately YouTube does kind of pigeonhole people, where it's like, if Alex Hermosi decided he wanted to like just, I'm going to go golfing and like, let's just film the golf course, people would be
Yeah.
like, what the fuck? And it's like, you should be okay with
You
that.
might be
I don't
able
know.
to pull it off though.
First, yeah, right.
He would, but I know there's plenty
No,
of people
you're
probably have those
100% right.
feelings and then don't.
Well, that's why
pursue
we're
it
talking
just
about
'cause-
niching down.
Yeah.
I know, and I think it is
I'm
the
scared-
smart
I'm
thing,
scared
but
of
it's
that
like,
But I think you
It's a
get
shitty
to
reality.
you get
Yeah.
until this a certain point where you have all these guys who have niched down, and that was their key to success. Then they made a shitload of money. Then they started investing in different businesses.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
were like, I have a lot of money to do content. I can tell
Yeah.
every angle of my story, right?
Yeah.
So now they have they have people's attention, because I think cars used to be cool, girls used to be cool, nightclub. Sure.
girls are still occasionally cool.
Nightclubs, whatever you want to call it. I think now
He's like cold plunges, and maybe an infrared.
Yeah, what else you got going on over there?
that's all there is. No,
Some liver.
but I think today's like most valuable currency as far as attention and influence is authenticity.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's the biggest thing, because everybody's got
Absolutely.
a YouTube channel, everybody's got
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, brand, this, that. So it's like, how are you going to stand out? Because there's the
Yeah.
more you're exposed to all this information and all that stimuli of somebody else, you're like, oh, I want to become that person. So you become one and the same as like maybe thousands of other people.
It's relatability, right? Because like it's not like a secret or like a trick. It's like authenticity is just like what everyone like wants and needs. Like I even feel like if somebody's watching this and they're like, yeah, it'd be great, you know, for them to know like Neal does 7 figures and all this stuff, but they're like, how the hell did he start? Like, tell me the story about when you started and it didn't work. Then tell me about the story about the campaign and the ad that you ran that actually worked and converted. Like, what software do you use? Do you use Jotform or whatever? Like, I don't know. To me, if somebody wanted to actually get started, like, I feel like when you're authentic and you tell them these like actual things that are valuable, it's like, it's relatable, because they're like, I could go technically do this like right now. Like maybe they're not going to do the exact same thing, but like, I don't know. That's where I think it's just authenticity is just like just creeping more and more up and becoming more and more valuable. Like if you showed me, if for example, back in the day, Peter McKinnon barely existed, right? When you were trying to learn stuff from somebody, like I learned a ton from Rob about video. Like there wasn't like no one, you wouldn't like if I DM'd you, you'd be like, if I was like, hey, what camera are you using? You'd probably be like, I'm not telling this guy. Like not you. I'm just saying in general. Like it was kind of like, but now it's like everything's up and open and out in the air. Like everything's there for everyone to kind of know. And I don't know. I think that's something that like everyone wants. Like people want to know like how much did you? Well, that's tough to do. But like how much did you pay for this car? Or like how did you afford it or whatever? So I think that's something where on YouTube, like if you just kind of show more of like that. I don't know. It's not like an instant surefire way to success though. And I think, you know,
but I mean, just in general, I mean, just on the topic of, I guess, YouTube again, it's like the breadth of information and like potential knowledge that can come from something like, you know, 20 years ago when YouTube didn't exist, like if you wanted to get into
anything
spa advertising, it's
Yeah.
like, there's nothing out there. Like even buying cars and like, you know, getting into the flipping of cars, like the
You had to go
economy of that,
find
like,
a course.
You had to like,
Yeah,
like
literally.
go read some books or
They
like
didn't
talk
find
to a BMW dealership. And it's like now just for about any sort of interest, you can find multiple YouTube channels that are like probably dedicated to it. You know, it's like you want to be into cave diving or whatever, like you can go do that. You want to be into BMWs or shitbox cars, like there's a page for you. And yeah, like you said, I think people like being able to see the kind of behind the veil, you know?
The one thing I will say is like, I mean, this is the most cliche thing of all time, but it's like you really only learn through your failure. So even when you said like the flipping car things or whatever, it may be like, you're just going into it. Like I'm sure, like I mean, some people took courses on how to run ads, some didn't, but like the courses typically help like after you have your like footing, right? Like you already know what to do. You just want like the next like sprinkle. Because like if you watch like YouTube videos and you don't do anything, I mean, everyone says this, but it's like you literally aren't going to get anywhere. Like, I mean, a lot of people watch YouTube videos based on like their interests and whatever else, but I don't know. I'm a huge proponent of like trying and trying and trying again.
It's been known of me on another show that I'm a part of that I don't historically and like love people that kind of monetize their knowledge of things. And I'm not going to dive into all of it.
Yeah.
But
I'm
curious.
You're in the wrong century.
I know, but I'm curious, and I hope you guys can maybe swing me. I don't know. I know you've alluded to some that you had done some sort of engagement, paid for some course, mentorship with somebody. And I don't know if you have experiences, but I'd like to hear from you guys. If it, not even like felt worth it, but like, is that like wholeheartedly, do you feel like something that it's like absolutely spent some money on this? And this, I have a follow-up question related to.
I spent probably, I don't know, over 50 grand in coaching. And
that's huge. See, okay.
So it's a pretty big investment. I mean, I started my business too with pretty much zero capital, and I threw it all in ads. But I think that now there's so much access to information that it's almost, the information is just like a lead magnet, basically, to grab your attention. And I think there's two, or you could say three different things. So it's focus and not giving up and execution. I think the three most important things, because I mean, there's been times when I was starting, I was like, especially after getting told 30 times no in the chiropractic niche, I was like, I just can't give up. So was there enough information there for me to be successful? Yes and no. It was enough to build a foundation, but like Kyle was saying, you got to try, you got to fail, and then you got to be like, okay, this is going to work for me. This is not going to work for me. You got to figure it out. And the people that actually figure it out on their own are the people that are the most successful. So should you invest in a course? Sure. I think that community is really important. I think one-on-one work with people who have done it and who can really more so not show you, but push you. Because I think human beings have a very tough time with keeping themselves accountable, with discipline, building the right habits. And that's why so many people talk about mindset. Because without mindset, you're going to just be swimming in the same old spot the whole time.
Well, so so 50K, I mean, is this for like a course where it's like you just get some like PDF with some information, or like I think I'd value like being added to this network of things. So you talk to this guy, he knows other people, he can introduce you to Eddie, and like I get the value of that, but is that where you're finding like, okay, this is what I get what I paid for there? Or
right. So my exact investment was, I think, paid in $10K plus there was like $500 a month to continue, be part of community. I had some one-on-ones with Joel, and then I really got a lot out of it because, as I said before, I was listening to other people's problems and where they were failing. So I was like, okay, if they're failing, this is a good opportunity to fix it. All right. This is because they're echoing their clients' issues. So that was a big thing. And then after that, I joined their elite program for about 8 to 10 months or something. And it got I would network with other CEOs in the agency space. And the networking piece was pretty big. And at some point I was like, Joel, like, I just need to discontinue this because now I just really need to focus and go to work. Yeah. Because I was like, okay, I know what it takes. Between all the experience I've had in my professional career and this, I was like, now I just really got to hone in and do the job, right? Yeah. Like, I think coaching is good. I think I'm big, a big advocate of coaching. You got to do it the right way. Everybody's a guru nowadays. So find people you most resonate with actual results. They're really, I think you got to figure out who actually cares about people and their success rather than who somebody's just out there want to sell 1 million courses. So I think that's where your hesitation maybe comes in.
Mine always just stems from like the people that, and I think we're in the video business. So like, I'm sure you still see tons of ads where it's like how to sell projects for more and stuff. And it's like, or like, I got my video agency to however much figures a month. And then it's like, you just know that they don't even do that anymore. They're just like, the course is the full-time thing. And so that's what bothers me. It's like, just have whoever you're going to learn from be qualified. But I think from a scalability and business perspective, it's like, look, I'll make this course on how to film things. And it's like a great business because there's tons of markup. It's like the most margin possible. You do it one time, you can sell it to 1,000 different people. Yeah. It makes sense on paper, but I just have like a lack of respect for somebody that's like, I had one $10K, $100,000 project, and now I like teach others how to do it. It's like, you should have just kept doing it, you know? Like, I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. It's like a weird, like, I know what you're talking about, and that's something where, you know, we've all felt that for a long time. And that's, I don't know, it's one of those things where I've seen both sides of it, and then I've met friends, and I have a bunch of friends in, like, you know, whether it be in Miami or wherever, who are like, who do it, right? And then I'm like,
when it makes sense.
The economics are way better than like you think about it. It's like the reason it works is obviously high ticket sales. You know, you run ads. If you can charge $1,000 for something, you can you know $300 to acquire the customer. You could spend $900 to acquire the customer and still make $100 on a digital product because it's infinitely replicatable. So that's obviously super appealing to like anyone to be able to
theoretically helpful to people.
Theoretically,
like if, you know,
sure.
as long as you're doing a good job with it, it's like it's a win-win. But for some reason, it's just the like.
It's the barrier to entry, and it's
if
like
you were really that good, you would just do that.
Well,
you know? It's like,
what they say, those who can't do teach, right? So
I think that's I mean, so. But I don't want to harp on that too much. But I want to hear. Do you have any experiences paying? I've never personally paid any coach. I've never done any sort of course. I want to say at least nothing that was like past like.
I feel like the first person to really rip open this like Band-Aid is Hormozi, because he obviously, his whole business is kind of based off of that, and he invests pretty much into all those businesses because he realizes the economics are the best pretty much because it's like software without the software. But personally, I haven't, but I feel like I've paid a bunch of ignorance debt in the sense of like hanging around. For example, like I did a bunch of work. George is one of my best friends, the one who, you know, started e-commerce, whatever, because I learned pretty much everything from him, kind of like as a mentor, right? But like, what could that have cost me? Like I filmed all of his ads for like blah, blah, blah. So it's like I did a bunch of stuff for a long time, kind of at his will, whatever it may be, because I just kind of wanted to hear those little spark notes. But if I would have went to George and was like, dude, I need you to sit me down for like 5 hours or like, and I'll give you $5,000. He'd probably be like, all right, I'll tell you everything I know. Like, that ignorance, that it can be paid down pretty quick. And it's like, I've never done that. And I'm just saying, like, if somebody came to me and they're like, Kyle, I want you to consult with me, tell me everything you know, camera, whatever. And they're like, I'll give you $10,000 for, you know, a few hours. And I'd be like, okay. I'd be like, all right. Like, and I would think like, maybe I should do this. Then maybe I should teach more people, because you make that one investment. Like he, you know, paid, it's kind of like paid ads, right? You pay a bunch of money to get a return, right? That's how it all goes. So if he can learn one little nugget of info, like, oh, I'm specifically doing this niche, or this is how I close this niche, or this is how I get those customers, or whatever, that could be the difference. Now, I don't have personal experience with it, but that's why I kind of stopped poo-pooing it as much, because it's just something where I'm like this is a really good, I think it just gets, you know, a bad rep because of all the guys in the, you know, rented cars and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I'm just a cynic, you know. I think that's
I'm with you. I think it's what everyone's thinking.
We need guys like you, Tom.
Yeah.
I think the same way, but the show that I'm a part of, I'm like the bad guy. They're always so like optimistic, and
that's every show, Tom.
And I'm always like,
that's just that one.
That's kind of how I am, you know. You
I
might
know
as well
that.
take it back to I'm straight business.
The fact that they get the sale is like the impressive part, because I'm always looking at these like drawn out funnels. I'm like, man, this is impressive. But then it's just the law.
All those funnels are terrible, or seemingly terrible, right? But I guess they're converting, or they're just spending a lot of money on that.
You know, like full-time filmmaker, obviously, right?
Yeah,
like
and I know he's done his thing, but he did a YouTube video, thankfully, that was very transparent. But like, he's like, video projects, I did like 200K this year or something like that. He's like, but my course did $1 million something. And it's like, see, that's what I kind of have a little bit of a problem with.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like, again, he's making all this money. It's great. He's still good at video, clearly, but.
Well,
I don't know.
I know what you mean, and I agree. It comes down, words, if you like start to love leverage too much, you're like, well, like technically he's just affecting. That's why I like YouTube and stuff, because if you're filming something for yourself and putting it out there and helping somebody, you're technically gaining that like infinite leverage of having something out in the public, which is that's where you do it
one time, and a lot of people,
I'm probably right in the middle of both of you, where I'm like, I'm cynical about the people who don't actually help people. I mean, if they technically refund you, it technically should be okay. But like, if a kid gets like Amon Godzi's agency course for $2,000 or $1,000, whatever it is, which that's how he built all of his wealth, like, and it works, and he starts making a bunch of money. Like, I don't know if I can really say anything, because I don't know if that kid would start an agency without that, and maybe help his family or whatever, you know.
It's tough. I can't put it into words, because it's like, it makes sense from the person that has the knowledge to like just bottle it and sell it to somebody. And it's like, it's stuff that you worked for and shit, but it's, I don't know. There's some part of it, like if you make more money selling the knowledge than like actually doing.
Well, that's
rubs me the wrong way,
e-commerce
I
is
don't
the
know.
biggest, place where people like.
Oh,
to
do you
that.
blame him or the people that bought it?
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. And if they're happy, then he's happy. Then like I'm just
But
a hater.
technically,
So
yeah.
I don't know. Like I don't know.
At the
But
crossroads.
that's just how. But I'm glad to hear 50K is a lot of money, man. And
Yeah.
I'm glad.
I mean, it paid off for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, that's good. And shout outs out to Rob. I actually,
Yeah.
Rob was one of the only. I just pointed at the camera.
I'm like, hey, Rob.
he's here.
Where's
I should have
Rob?
invited him, but
nice.
he was like one of the guys that, and I've had a couple meetings with him, and I knew he'd be a G, but I was like,
Yeah.
I'll value this more, dude. I'm like, can I just give you some money and like, can we just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
sit down and like, can we hang out for a little bit? And
Yeah.
he rejected me. He's like, dude, just like let me know when you want to talk. And
Yeah.
would hop on a call with me, which is great.
sure.
But he was one of those guys. I was like, I will pay for it, and he was. Like as if somebody approaches me where it's like, I'll pay for this information. I'm like, a
Yeah.
couple of minute phone call, dude. Like, no problem. Just give me a call. I'm happy to help out and stuff like that. But he was the first and the only that I've ever been like, I would pay you
Well,
for a
100%.
little bit of knowledge,
And
to hear what you know.
But
Yeah,
it doesn't matter because information, like we talked about, it's like I could literally draw out everything that I do. In the last podcast, I basically gave away like almost
If
all of
Neal
our
did that,
agency model.
I'd probably wire him 10 grand for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
If Neal was like, this is everything
Maybe
I
that's
do.
it.
I
If
mean,
you just-
seriously,
Because I'm
I-
interested.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm interested.
Like our
It's out there
like
for free,
seriously, like our lead conversion teams, they convert about, I want to say anywhere from like 20 to 40%, which is insane.
That's huge.
It's insane, and it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly though, like I could give you, the blueprint, but like execution is the most important thing, right? And that's why we're kind of getting into this dark time of AI because AI is going to do a lot of shit for you, but somebody still has to give the prompts and make sure everything's fine tuned. And in the service-based business that I'm in, or the niche that we serve, it's still a human connection business because I'm not selling treatments online. I'm selling offers that get people in the door.
Yeah.
So I'm basically selling an opportunity for you to meet with a provider.
Yeah.
It's not like selling shoes, right? I could go on my phone. I mean, I do Allbirds. Allbirds is like my brand to go to.
Yeah.
Great ads, like super clean stuff. I go there. I mean, it's like I blinked and I'm like, oh, they'll be there tomorrow, right? And it's totally different game, right? We're in people's business, at least for now.
But I think service-based, and to put a pin in like the whole like paying for stuff and what have you, I think you're right in the sense of like, you're like, these aren't really secrets. They're all out on YouTube. 100% right. Number two is you could even find it packaged on YouTube because Neal could argue with you and say like, oh, well, this is packaged differently. I think investing the money just makes you more serious about it, which is a stupid reason for it to work.
But it is.
It's valid because technically everything is online, right? Everything about having a multi-million-dollar e-commerce company or multi-million-dollar whatever is. It's just like maybe the packaging and maybe that offer just motivates you a little bit, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, and maybe a decent segue. I want to. The segue is watches are one of those things where it's like for someone that just tells the advice, you can spend a shit ton of money on this, and it really only matters to you. Obviously, it holds value, but it is. You value that watch more because it is more expensive, and there's more stuff that goes into it. But what the real question I wanted to ask about, and I know we kind of briefly talked about it, some of it with you, but we're all successful enough business people at this point, and I'm curious what you guys do from a reinvestment standpoint, and I feel like, with the exception of Neal, we're pretty young, and we all are probably doing okay. And we're you into cars, you're into watches. I like watches. I just bought a new car. Neal, you just bought a home and stuff like that. And I know you got probably crazy overhead with your team and stuff like that. You probably run a little bit more lean, but like, what do you guys do just from a personal and business perspective? I mean, do you put a bunch of money away? Every penny goes back into the business? We're just running ads. How much of it is like, dude, I fucking worked hard. Like, I'm going to treat myself, buy a house, buy the Jeep. And so whoever wants to take it away, what do you guys?
Kyle, go ahead.
I mean, you obviously know cars, watches. I mean, I don't really have any like necessary like budget with them. I think as long as I don't even say get the money back, because 9 times out of 10, anything I'm buying, it's with some kind of built-in percentage of margin that will definitely outpace like the S&P or most of the time crypto. When people could say like, okay, you're crazy, but I'm like, well, I've like tracked it. I'm like, if you bought it then and you had to sell it now, like it would be better. So that, and then obviously, like I said, getting rid of the office and parlaying it into a home, like, that'll be a big investment. There'll be more money even invested into it, but I'm like, it's dual purpose. It cuts out that expenditure, and then it also gets something that can parlay more. And then on top of that, having enough cash flow to be able to, for example, like even with the gym bands, things like, you need to have enough cash flow to be able to scale to that number. If you're doing, $20K a day in gross, you're spending personally like $8,000 to $10,000 a day in ads, which obviously perplexes people, but that's 70 G's a week that you have to be able to like figure out a way to do. So I think between those like things, I don't know, because we talked about it, and I know like with the first class thing, you were like, what? And I was like, no, but
there's a backstory.
Yeah, there's a backstory.
You guys do share, because I was involved in this conversation.
Oh no! So essentially, obviously, if you run a lot of ads and you have like an Amex Platinum or some good card for points or whatever, you can use those plans, transfer them out of American Express, and use them on something called Aeroplan. Sometimes you can score international first class. And Tom was like,
the
what
real
happened?
story is Kyle was just like, I'm cheap. I don't do this. Like I saw one of his posts that was like a birthday. It was like a year recap. And I just go through and I see everything on his wrist. I'm like, okay, this guy's got a fuck ton of watches. I know you got a cars, all this sort of stuff. Yeah. And I was like, man, big flex with like the watch post. But he's like, I'm glad somebody noticed. But anyway, yeah, he was just talking about how he's so cheap with most things. And then like a day later, he's like flying first class with something. I'm just like, okay, that classic.
And so I think I'm half Indian, so it comes with the territory, and then Eastern European like this guy. But so it's like the ultimate. But like I think. It's just like all these things, like nothing, if it never takes away from you, like no salesman's ever gonna, maybe not none, but like they're not gonna sell me on something. I'm not gonna go into like a mall or buy some crazy clothes or whatever because some salesman's like, you're gonna look so cool. But there's certain things I've known I wanted since I was a little kid, right? I loved cars since I was like 5, the watch thing, I was into watches when I was like 15, 16, 17, even like Rolex back then, whatever. Before it was like this, I'm not gonna say I was a trendsetter. They've always been cool, but now it's like even the upper echelon of like everyone wants one now. But the thing is, as long as you never lose the money, if I've been making money since I was 11 and I just keep putting it into like going from my first car was $1,100 and then you pass, these more expensive cars, it's like, if I never lose it, it's never gonna go away. And people always like, oh, well, cars are investments or watches. I'm like, well, I look at it as such, right? And if it can make that return or whatever, or just keep the money somewhere, and especially where I'm not spending it. Because
a tangible asset.
Yeah, tangible assets are the best, because not only is it tangible, but it's insurable. Like it's not like fluctuating like crazy. It's not like holding some random crypto coin or stock, which that's fine. Anyone can do that. That's no big deal. That's just what I do.
Absolutely.
And then holding the cash is sketchy for me because like I always reinvested into the business. Like when I was starting like my agency, like I bought like. That was like one like disconnect I'd always had with partners. Like I'm just like burn the boats. Like I'll spend anything to get like the next. I know that's a gear acquisition syndrome, but at the same time I'm like, well, I want to get better at this. I want to buy this camera or this gear or rent this office or do this kind of thing. But I don't know. To your point, I think reinvesting in yourself is like the most, once again, cliche thing to say, but like as long as you really love it and you can afford to do it. Like even when I first moved downtown, like having Indian family, they're like, you're crazy. You're spending $2,000 a month on like an apartment. I'm like, it's more than that, but like whatever. Yeah, no, that was back in like 2015, 16, but still. But even that investment, even like, for example,
like 18
the watch investment or like the car investment, like what that might do, right? Even living downtown, like I would have never met Neal if I didn't live downtown. That's been, one of my greatest returns. He's going to give me his whole playbook after this, which is like so nice of him to do.
Well, you've had a good return because all I've done is pay this guy. I've given Neal thousands of dollars to just show up and hang out with some kids.
Be a
and
daddy.
That's basically it. Yeah, be a dad. That's usually just taking business calls while at work. But
that's maximizing return right there.
No, I'm totally joking. We're on the same.
I pay him $1,000, and now we're just using.
I mean, that Rolex. Studio. I mean, you could hold that thing and sell it for more, right?
It's liquid. I could make a call.
I think I watched. You guys know Bradley. He's awesome.
Yeah.
So I saw him at a conference with Hormozy in Phoenix. Was it like 3 weeks ago or something? Maybe a month ago. And right after that, he posted a video, and he was talking about he bought. I think it was like a first car, a Mercedes or something. And he was like, "Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's like $2,000 to $3,000 or like $2,000 payment or something." And it's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And he ended up making a decision to actually do it because he knew like, hey, I'm just going to have to work harder to afford it. Yep. So I think it's more of an abundance mindset than the opposite, right? So for me, it was like, you know, when I was looking at building houses, I was like, well, I could get this, but also I could get more, right? Because that is just going to force me to work that much harder.
I agree.
I know you guys are big into watches. I like my Movados because they're classy.
Kyle's big into watches. He's got big money. I got a little money.
I was like, you know, and it's interesting because like in the agency space, like Eddie Oldos, everybody I know, like Eddie, Stevie, Joel, like guys who own really nice agencies, everybody's got a damn Rolex. Or a Lambo, which I can't fit in, so whatever. My Jeep will do.
That's why I like being under 6 foot.
Right. Can't fit in any of them. I can fit in a Porsche. Fit in a Porsche.
Yeah. Well, because the seat goes back.
Because it's deep. But I live on a gravel road.
Go test, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What'd you take?
I got dropped off here because I wasn't sure of the parking situation. You got to protect your investments.
That's fair.
I mean, I wanted a Porsche since I was a kid, but I now live on a gravel road, and it would just do a lot of disservice until they pave it for me.
That you touched on that, because I think it's a bad strategy if you don't have an idea. Like, I'm gonna make a long story short. When I was wholesaling computers when I was 18, like 17, 18, I bought a 911 Turbo, which I couldn't afford. And I got like a loan on it for 36 grand. It's worth like 75 now, but whatever. That's besides the point. I literally freaked out and I sold it in a week. I had made money on every single car before this car, and then I took a big loss on it because I was like, it's gonna motivate me to work harder. I'm like, I didn't even have a good vehicle to make money. I was making like $200 a computer, like every couple days, like, you know, maybe 2 a day, maybe if I was lucky. So to your point, and I was like, I sold it, and I'm like, I'm never gonna get into something until I have like a steady stream of revenue, whatever. And I ended up buying cars much later. But like to your point, it's like, do I think you should buy something to force yourself to make more money? No. But if you have a vehicle to do it and you're complacent with your current situation and it might help motivate you, I don't think it's a bad thing. And anyone on the sidelines who's like, why'd you buy that car? Why'd you do this? Or whatever. It's like, okay, well,
I'm rich.
Well, no. Sorry, I think like at the time, like in certain situations, people are like, wow, you're dumb for selling that or dumb for doing that. I'm like, well, I figured out by building from, you get your first $10,000 car, 50,000, then 100,000 and whatever going on. It's like, you get more comfortable with like, and confident with things. Yeah. It's no different than building a skill or going to the gym or whatever. Yeah. And I know that's the stupid.
And just going from like 0 to.
Yeah. Then going from 0 to 100, everyone, because then.
And Honda to a Lambo right there.
And the funny thing is, those are the people who make the really bad financial decisions, because I don't buy cars from dealers, for example. Like I only buy private, and there's a big tax advantages and whatever else. But like, they're the people who like poo-poo on it. Like Alex Mosey doesn't like cars, but he was driving a Prius, and like that Prius probably cost him more than I know it did, because all my BMWs made me money, right? So it's like, yeah, you could argue I put energy and effort into it, but it's like, as long as you, once again, are retaining the asset and it motivates you, like there's some level of, like, for example, you probably made more money because of your house and because of your Jeep. You didn't even have a car when I met him. So
yeah, no,
that's
I didn't own a car until I got my Jeep. Yeah. Till I was like 30 years old. I didn't own a car.
I actually think that hurt you, like your lifestyle, because you were very like, I know you, and you're probably no different, but like you were like really are good with like money, right? But like elevating what you had to like take care of and stuff, and being a little bit less minimalist, like made you go make a bunch of money.
Sure.
So take away sell your house, sell your car, you have the vehicle to make the money now. Right. You didn't have it before.
Right.
But those stupid little assets, say even you sell a house for a loss, and you sell it, I'm not saying it's going to happen or you should sell it, but like you built all these things. So, and like to Bradley's point, what's the worst that could happen?
Right.
So there's a lot of intrinsic benefits that come from.
Yeah, I think, so talking about investments, travel for me is a big one. And
yeah, I want to hear about, I guess we'll hear about that.
All right. So one, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to Europe for 4 weeks.
Nice.
And I literally planned it about 15 minutes. Kid you not, 15 minutes. And then in 2 hours, I planned an entire week-long road trip in Norway.
Wow.
Right? 2 hours. I think a lot of people spend like months on planning a trip. So how I did that, which I think something cool to talk about. So one, we talked about Norway. We said, okay, Norway fjords. Cool. We picked dates, not on weekends, because weekends are the most expensive. Then we went on Scott's Cheap Flights, Google Flights, picked flights, booked them with points. Absolutely. Right? Then we basically said, okay, what's our, so we have our starting destination, ending destination, then we mapped out all the points around it. We got a car, Hotwire, or points. We basically Googled like the destinations all around the route. booked hotels and booking points, and then we had our agenda.
That's awesome.
120 minutes.
Or bitches or what?
Can we talk about these things? No, I'm going with my cousin. Thanks, Tom.
That's So that's awesome.
Well, let's put you even more on the spot. Why does everyone that worked for you female and attractive?
Tom,
or pass. You can pass the question. All right, going to.
So I mean, we work in aesthetics, right?
I know. I'm just teasing.
So that's one. I mean, I get it. I suppose we're. I suppose
this is gonna get cut,
I suppose we're very. I know. I suppose we're very blessed, and like even we're at the retreat, and I was like, you guys are all beautiful human beings, right?
I suppose that we're very blessed. What an eloquent guy.
I shouldn't have even asked. Yeah,
no. I mean, everybody that works for us is beautiful inside and out. That's for sure. But we're primarily female oriented niche.
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. No, it doesn't hurt. So shout out to
those unfair
all the guys and
advantages.
girls.
Not like saying specifically that, but like it's an unfair advantage to. This is a stupid example, but like pull up to a club in a nice car. It's an unfair advantage to have a male business owner that you're a female person who's attractive is talking. It's an unfair advantage.
It makes sense.
But it's not like it's like you're doing it on purpose. But it could just be like a bonus. Like, hey, if that's what converts somebody versus doesn't, like fine. Or makes them want to talk to somebody.
Yeah,
I mean, it's no different than
dogs. So
if somebody wants to.
I mean, Colton's good looking, so
this slide here.
No, I mean it's fine. I think I like. I told you
like Colton. I have people.
I told you I like spicy questions. I think you're starting to pod, which more than me today. That's interesting, but
that's pretty much all I got.
No, I mean I love my team. I love my team. There are you can attest to it. They're super good looking, and like Kyle said, it helps in business. So. As much as you can deny it, we live in a aesthetic world, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
Perception's reality. I'm going to go back to travel as an investment. That's a big thing. Yeah. Kyle likes to travel as well. I know you.
I'm not as good. I actually am very anxious, like bad. I like to travel, but like I feel like you are a good traveler, and I'm like a bad one. Like what you just said about the 2 hours thing is totally true, because it's like what could take 2 hours would probably take me like 4 weeks of being like,
because it's indecision. It's indecision.
Then you don't get excited for the trip anymore because it's Wednesday, you're leaving Friday, and you still don't have the hotel yet.
He's like more like me, like a shower upper. He just like,
I mean,
it'll work. So
I've been living in that, like the past 3 years have been the best years of my life, and especially with building this business, it's like I make the decisions and then deal with consequences.
Yeah.
Because it's like I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? I don't know. I could die, I guess, but then today's the only day that's granted. But make the decisions, deal with consequences. So for me, it's like, okay, if something doesn't work out with the plan, I could just book another hotel. I can switch my flight. Like I can book another car. Like it's like, and quite frankly, like yes, I have the resources to do it, but it doesn't have to be that. I think people stress themselves out, right?
Yeah, because he was traveling like that before,
right? Like I was making $130K consulting, maybe a little bit more, and like I was telling people, like you guys just accumulate your resources into different places, or you spend them in different places. I'm just spending them on travel, right? Yeah. I wasn't really saving a lot of money, which is my personal preference or choice.
Yeah.
I was traveling, and I was hitting up one country after another, like, and it's like, it's all a preference of your life, like of your lifestyle. It's like, what do you choose to do with your money? How do you choose to spend your time, right? That's the biggest thing. For me, it's like, I will spend money on travel all day long. I'm not sitting there and like, all right, I'm going to stay at a Ritz every single time. That would get really expensive if I'm traveling almost 24 to 30 times a year.
For sure.
So I do it in a cost-friendly way, so to speak, but it's an investment. Some people spend it on restaurants, buy a bunch of clothes. I don't know. However you want to spend it. I spend it on travel because to me, it's like, this is my life. Ultimately, this is my life. Like, how am I spending my time? I could spend it chilling on the couch, or I could go somewhere, right? So it's like, I choose to go somewhere, make myself uncomfortable, learn new things, talk to these people, put this on my life resume. And
it's an experience flex, unlike the material flex of some other things we've chatted
And there's
about.
definitely like a certain level of like the flex aspect, I think, with traveling too. Like the places Neal goes is like, it's appealing to everyone. I'm not saying that's why you do it, but like it's pretty, like that's what everyone wants to do, right? They want to go to the crazy volcano and you know wherever it is in Hawaii and take a picture, like, and I feel like he does it. He actually unapologetically does it. And for me, I don't think I could ever do it. I want to be able to do it, but I feel like I'm just like a little bit too stressed out by like business and life sometimes. I'm like, oh, like I'm not like there, because like Neal goes there with like no Wi-Fi connection. I already know it. His team's is like, he's like, go ahead.
Yeah.
But that's another thing about building good systems, which is something that I would like to pick your brain about and how that all goes.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, this year was the first time since I started my business where I cut myself off, like, for like a couple days. It was tough.
What did we talk? Cutting off from what?
From like the business while traveling.
Yeah.
Because it's like, so I went in this retreat in Tulum and we had a letting go ceremony, and you basically wrote something down that you're letting go and you threw it in a fire. Mine was being a control freak.
Yeah.
And that is a big step in evolution, because that's when you start to trust your team a lot more. And you're like, hey guys, if you're going to make, everybody's going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But you're like, this business is not going to scale if I'm constantly, you know, on top of everything all the time. It's like tough. it has to thrive on its own. So I was like, I'm gonna cut myself off, because like if I'm a slave to my Slack channel or email, like I'm never going to be content in my own life. So I was like, guys, like I'm actually taking days off, which I'm always like, they know me, like I can fire back to an email within seconds. Like I know if a client emails us, I know everything to say.
Well, it's personal, man. I mean, people that don't work for themselves, it's like my girlfriend, she works for Chase, and even that, it's like 5 o'clock rolls around, she's like, nah, this email came in late, I'm not gonna. I'm like, I just can't even imagine.
I need to talk to your girlfriend, because I have some banking issues.
Well, and she travels on travel. I would say I'm decently traveled. We travel at least twice a year, and we try to go internationally as one of them. But when I was younger, we did a month in Europe. I've done about a month in Thailand and stuff like that. So I've done things of that nature. I'm so bad about planning, where it's like I just hate doing it. So luckily,
do you think that's where you don't go sometimes? That's why you don't go sometimes?
No, I usually get roped in because she'll take me. But like we have a trip to Japan in September, but it's like I don't know what's happening past the dates, pretty much. Like I don't even know if I have a
Is there a plan?
Yeah, oh yeah. There's a spreadsheet. She's like, "Do you want me to go through it?" But I'm like, "No, I don't like doing that." We were in Peru not too long ago, and it's like I don't like. That's not that I don't like, but it's kind of fun just to show up and like see what happens. So no, luckily she puts it together, because if I did not have her, I might, not to say that you were like this, but like as a business owner, it's tough to travel, because it feels like time you're like away from the helm, and it's like especially if you're pretty crucial to the operation, which I think all of us are. It's difficult. Not only are you like spending money, but you're losing money by being gone. And it's like sometimes hard to like feel not stressed out that like emails are coming in. You're like, I'm on a dune buggy out here in the desert. So like, you know, I'm not going to respond to this. But I'm very appreciative that she does that sort of stuff. And I enjoy travel, but I think if I was not with her, I'd probably be doing it a lot less, just because it's like to make the push to do it for myself would be difficult, I think.
For sure. No, it makes sense. And that's something, I mean, just like a little thing I was thinking about is like productive effort. Like when you said like you're on a dune buggy, can I answer this email? Whatever. And everyone says like, don't check your email, whatever. I get that. But like even during the day, like what is like productive effort? Like I feel like that's the scary part about creative sometimes, that like everything feels productive, and having a computer or laptop, right? You can do anything at any time. There's always something to do. But that doesn't mean it's the highest leverage activity you could be possibly doing.
Oh,
and
that's a constant struggle.
That's what I'm saying. And like I have a big overseas team as well. And like the problem is there's just like this weird thing of when you're in like the hustle grind mode, you are like you're constantly pushing and using your energy. And then over here, when you outsource everything, then it's like really hard to like get that. Then you get a little too complacent. So it's like, how do you keep, because you're supposed to use that new time to build things even greater. I don't know. I just was curious, and I'm thinking about it with the travel thing, because honestly, travel, we get all this like anxiety of like, oh, we're not here, we should be doing this. But it's like, well, how much are we really doing when we're home or when we're at the office, which obviously arguably should be more than when we're traveling, but could be the same results. You could be doing the exact same Slack stuff. And if you have people helping you out, you could be getting the exact same amount of stuff done. So I'm curious in your thoughts on that.
When I travel, I'm not like, there are times where, I'll like get an email, I'm like, I'm just not going to deal with this now. But I don't, I've understood this life, and like, mind that like a, you know, late night email comes in, like I'm fine with responding to it
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
want to or not, you know, like that's up to me to decide. But I actually kind of enjoy vacations because like I don't know, I can never just like, I'm not good with meditation, the whole like just remove yourself, and like I could not be on vacation for a week and not think about like work or what the hell's happening or like, you know, this. And I usually use it as a time to like just kind of step away from my desk, but like I almost like double down on like thinking extra hard about the business. And like
it's true.
Instead of just being like, what projects we got going on there, it's like, what do we want to do in 6 months from now, or how could we take this a different direction, or maybe a new project or something like that. I feel like I usually am like kind of overactive thinking on vacation, and I'm totally fine with that. My girlfriend's happy to go sit by the pool and like read a book and stuff, but I'll be sitting there with a laptop just like Google searching something else I'm into, or you know, wanting to do this and that. And so
I think when you're an entrepreneur, those things blend. Like I don't really know what a vacation means.
Yeah.
Also, like the way I vacation is probably stressful for 99% of the population.
More stress than vacation.
Like I'll be like, okay, we're gonna get up, we're gonna do this, we're gonna hit the gym, we're gonna go hiking, then we're gonna see 3 places, then we have dinner planned here, and people are like, no, I'm not going with you. And that's okay, right? That's personal preference, but the whole vacation thing, right? It's like, I think it's like more so for maybe like a corporate mindset where you're like, okay, I'm shutting off.
Yeah.
I'm going somewhere. Margaritas by the pool, 9 to 5, just a different 9 to 5.
For sure.
Right. But it's like, I think when you're an entrepreneur, you're like constantly thinking of how can I be better because your personal and professional life are they're almost the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like basically where you are at that time. But to me, it's like, use it however you want to use it. Right. Yeah. Like I typically, like if I have the time to lay on a beach, I'm probably reading a book that's going to contribute to bettering myself or my business. Right. So I think that's another form of.
So no margaritas then.
No, I'm not. Yeah, that's not it.
You painted that picture.
That was a Polish wedding. That's another story.
No, I want to pick both of your guys' brains on that, because I think that's something that's actually relatable to people. Like as an entrepreneur, I don't not hate the word. It's just like, what is it that you're, because I constantly have this like, oh, I should be doing more, I should be doing this, but then I feel like you fall into that trap of just doing actions just to do them. Whether it's you get a client, you're like, well, I can't turn this client down, that'd be stupid. But then after the work is done, you're like, why did I take that client? Or why you sign up for these different things, which I've done for years and years. And this is kind of like my breaking point, like especially with this office, I'm restructuring a lot of stuff that I'm doing. But like, how do you look at what can I do to move the ball forward? I'm a big like 1% every day guy. I know like you'd say like read or whatever, but like what are you actually doing? Like what are those actionable steps?
What do you think, Tom?
I want to hear what you had to say.
To me, I have a very strict routine about how to start my day. Yeah. So to me, it's make the bed. It's huge. Just because I want to feel like I'm doing something right off the bat. So make the bed. I have 4 different things that I read every single day. Principles to Outwit the Devil. That's a Napoleon Hill book. The 4 Agreements, which are amazing. Then I read affirmations, and I have like a mantra / gratitude. So that's a big thing for me, just building good habits and just waking up, being super grateful, and just setting yourself up for a really, really good, productive day. I always take time in the mornings to actually do deep work. I used to go to the gym first thing in the morning.
I love that you're saying this.
But I basically told myself like, this is the best time to actually get stuff done. Yep. It's the most quiet time. It's, things are just, people are just kind of, just getting in a swing of things. So that's, to me, I actually, I do like, basically like 7 to 11 is my like quiet, deep work time. Then I go to the gym, then I have lunch, and then I schedule all my meetings in the afternoons typically. And then I work till about the evening, and then it's Neal time after that, where it's I do a lot of reading or education or stuff like that. So that's how I structure most of my days. Weekends are a little bit more flexible. But for me, it's try to read 2 to 4 books a month, because I think you need to diversify your perspective. You always get different ideas. So I read on business, I read on psychology, I read on spirituality and health. Those are the big pillars for me. All nonfiction. I feel like fiction is great for entertainment, but I'm not here to be entertained anymore. I've had a lot of entertainment in my life. Yeah. Kyle attests to that.
Yeah, for sure.
and now it's the time to kind of just really hone in and focus. So I think how we spend our time is super important. I think the content we take in is super important because our minds are computers. So what we feed it, they're going to spit out, right? Input, output. So that's huge. So I try to control my content. I try to control my time and make sure I'm investing in my health, because that's we got 3 currencies: health, time, and money. If you don't have health, you don't have time. If you don't have time, you can't make money.
Yeah, I love it.
I feel like I'm going to have a disappointing answer in comparison to you, because I feel
you're always the bad guy, Tom. So I'm all for it. Let's go.
And I think I've always kind of struggled with, I think we've probably all watched, let's just call them entrepreneur gurus, the guys that initially inspired you to like, hey, you can go make money, do your own thing, wake up, hustle, all that sort of stuff. And I like totally soaked it up as a kid. And then I think, I'm getting to a point now where it's like things are working. I don't know if it's just like enough in my head, because I know that there are definitely some things that I'm like just not doing, or I'm not like, I know it sounds like whack, but like as fully committed to my success as I could be.
Yeah.
And I remember 2 years ago, I remember feeling just like this immense pressure to like constantly make every moment count, basically. Or, you would channel that stupid Gary Vee voice in the back of your head where it's like, what, you're taking an extra 10 minutes to scroll on Instagram right now? Like you could be making content or something. And like, I felt like that was such a bad, at least maybe just for me personally. Like, obviously I like the lesson of that. I think that working more than you're jacking off is important, but who doesn't enjoy a little bit of the other stuff, So like I'm at now where it's like, I don't have that, like I wake up at 7 and I take a sip of coffee and I smell the morning air and I, make my bed and do this. Like I have a routine, like I have a calendar, I get things done, we're moving forward. I haven't had a down year ever. And I do pretty well consistently year over year. So I'm happy with that. But I feel like I hopefully won't look back at this time as like, not that I'm like taking my foot off the gas, but I'm kind of like, I'm rolling down the windows and enjoying the view a little bit more than just trying to like pipe it. And so I don't know. And maybe but I think it's subjective, right? I think it's subjective and that, maybe this works for me, and maybe your way would also work for me. Maybe it wouldn't, right? But this has worked for me, so I do more of it. So, and I think Gary Vee posted something today, which is like contradictory to what he's always said. And he was saying like, success is subjective. We're like, oh really, Gary? You've been fucking telling people to,
literally.
Like
go
kill
garage sale.
I know, kill yourself if you don't. So, so yeah, I think that success is subjective. Like my happiness isn't your happiness. My sustained like level of growth isn't your sustained level of growth. It's like everybody's different. It's okay. Like you're not ever going to resonate with everybody else. I think this goes back to like self-love. Do I love my lifestyle? Yes. Does it work for me? Yes. Yeah. Do I care if anybody else loves it? No. So it's like what works for you works for you. And like if it makes you happy and you're still crushing it, like sounds good.
It's all seasons. I hope maybe I do, like, because I do think that I can at least appreciate.
Should you make your bed? Yes.
Future me, when I do make the bed, but like I think that like I could be more focused and more direct, and like there are plenty of times where I'm like, we're gonna call it a day today and let's go golf or something, and I do kind of kick myself, but I'm learning to like appreciate it now. And like before, I used to feel guilty if I was like playing video games with my friends or something like that. Now I'm just like, I got money in the bank. We got business coming in. Like I'm straight and I'm okay with that.
I think it's balanced though. Like as long as
age too.
Yeah, it does.
And it definitely like the hustle.
Whether like the refocus or like the being able to like chill a little bit. Like
I think the balance is important. Yeah. Like enjoy the fruits of your labor. Cause then if you're working all the time, which I know there's guys like Tom Bilyeu was talking about, he's like always working and that's what makes him happy. And I'm like, and then he spends like a day with his wife and I'm like, great. Like that's you, bro. And like, if that's what makes you happy, fine. Like maybe, to him, it's like constant working and impact. That's great. Like I said, it's subjective.
Yeah. I just think like to your point, like with saying that, like I've definitely started to feel that more getting older. I think the problem is there's this like diminishing law of return once you hit this certain level. So you, by default, you get and I don't even say certain level in some crazy way. For me, I don't know how you guys relate to it, but like when I was 18, like building the agency, I'm like, I I was so goal driven to like hit like 12 grand a month, right? 100 grand a year. And then once you do that and then you keep going and then you have some other big swings or whatever those goals were are suddenly like not important anymore, right? Because you already hit them. You already did them. I already owned that. I already did that. I already lived there. So as you move forward, it's kind of like setting these new expectations like of what you want to do. And then you get better at your craft and then maybe you're busy and you have enough money in the bank to where that fire inherently just kind of goes away because it just does, right? Not maybe the fire to do more, but you just realize like maybe I don't have to work as much and I could still produce the same result. And that comes to the leverage thing. Okay. And the 4 things with leverage, I know Hormozi and you know Naval Ravikant, obviously, Almanac, it's a great book to read, speaking of books. But the 4 units of leverage are capital, media, code, and labor. So obviously the new ones are media and code, and the old ones were money and then people working for you. So I think as we get more towards having our businesses hit those points, you just essentially don't need to work as much. Like you just don't. I feel like, and I think that's hard for all of us because we're in that like zone of like you got to constantly, which
you get taught it.
I don't know, and I think with the seasons thing, like I know Neal had a season that probably wasn't as zen and focused and laser focused on something that's building like as right now, and I've had seasons where I worked more and harder and grinded harder than I have now, and I'm sure you have too. Yeah. And I actually don't know what the next season might be. I just know that, like, I don't know. If you can do more with less, then that's probably a good idea. Like, and you can enjoy yourself more. You can have a glass of wine at 5. I get it. Like, even during the day, like,
of that,
calling it early at 2 p.m.
I guess I just don't also
is it beer time?
That it's going to get, like, pulled away from it. Yeah, would you guys like them?
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, if you're going to offer it.
You can do it?
Let's keep going.
Good. I like the conversation.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I just want to let you know I got to build Neal for it.
Yeah, you can build both of us. We'll split it. Actually, Neal's money bags, I take it back. Thank you.
Sorry you don't have one, champ.
I'll get you on.
You can have the straight bottle of whiskey that's over there if you'd like. But
let's see, thank you.
This is the only option we have. So
Love
look it up.
I'll take it. 9.5%. Jeez, it's like 3 of them in one.
And taste it. It's really actually like surprising because it tastes like not completely fucked. It actually tastes like a good summer beverage. But yeah, it'll, if you're not much of a drinker.
No, I am.
Okay,
unfortunately.
Then, I mean, even like I drink a beer a day, but it's like these beers. You're like, I actually felt it.
You like wine at all or no?
Yes, but I don't know shit about it.
No,
so
I'm not.
I haven't gotten in that vibe yet.
For sure.
My girlfriend's they've been in the liquor business for a long time. So every time I go, they always have great wine. And I'm always like, fuck yeah, I like it. But like, I chicken out, I go to the restaurant where I'm like, I probably should order wine, but I'm like, I don't even want to try to like say this.
Just say like house cab and you'll be good.
I know. But even that, I'm just like, so.
And it might not be, No, I'm not even saying it like that. I'm just saying like, that's something that like my guilty pleasure. But
we covered a lot of these. We covered a lot of these so far and in like a good organic fashion. So it's good.
So let's talk about why is Neal single? What Kyle's
I knew you were going like when you said like, oh, let's spice things up a little bit. Be like, so why are you single? Like, I knew he was gonna like.
No, that's all right, Neal.
And then but he's like, hey, why is all your staff good looking?
It makes sense. It actually, for the record, it does make sense.
Yeah. For the record or off record.
No,
or on record.
We're on it. I don't know what
you never know. You never know what Tom's gonna fucking put out there.
I don't know
after
how your
this.
staff looks. So aside from the Instagram stories of like the,
listen, I followed the same formula as you can tell. So.
Which I think is a big flex. Actually, that's probably the biggest flex is to be able to flex like a what's it called, like a story where you have like a Zoom call with like 20 people and you're like with the team, and I'm like, damn, I mean, I have some people on the team too, but like they don't all speak great English. So like they're all US based.
We have 40 people, 30, I think 30 are US based.
Wow.
That's crazy, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So pretty big payroll. Lots of Amex points.
Yeah, I was about to say. Do you,
proud of you, baby.
How did that go? Right. From, I mean, I'm not saying like, when did you decide
4 years ago? All right.
Yeah, exactly.
I wasn't.
He's got it. No, he was. Yeah.
Kyle was a millionaire at 18.
Yeah, I wish.
And I'm definitely somewhere in the middle. But
I think like I'm curious as to like, because Neal has like his aura has like changed. He's much more like calm now, and that might be because of like the toads he licked in like Jamaica.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I was post that, Neal. You've always been.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you admit like you're a bit calmer now?
Yeah, I think
because of the, you know, whether it's figuring out something you really want to do and putting all your effort and passion towards
Sure.
and making money.
Well, I always tell my friends now, I'm like, my wealth, my biggest wealth is tranquility. Right. And, and I mean, no, but like, check this out. Like, it sounds silly. It really does sound silly, but you're like, with the amount of things we're bombarded with right now. So imagine like our grandparents, right? Their lives were much simpler, right? And they had their family stuff, they had their work stuff, maybe a little vacation if they could afford it. I know my parents couldn't, your parents couldn't. We come from poor families. So their lives were like much simpler. They kind of were able to work and enjoy their family time. And their family was like their core, you could even say, purpose. But for us, we live in a world in the world of convenience and information, where it was just like, we're bombarded with this, that every single day. So to me, I just took on way too many things, did too many things that really distracted me from my core and purpose. Yeah. And then you basically, you know, how many people have anxiety and depression nowadays, right? Because there's so much stimuli. You're like, everybody's like, I don't even know my why. I don't even know my purpose. I don't even know what I'm doing. Everybody's like, you know, in this rat race. So to me, it was like, how can I make things a lot more simple for me, in my life, so I'm able to actually find what truly makes me happy. And I think that once you eliminate a lot of activities from your life that just aren't productive or aren't serving your purpose, then you're like, okay, now I can breathe. And now I can be at peace with who I am and the things I'm doing, right? And it's like, and it actually makes it more fun too.
That's like bingo. Like what you just said was actually what I should have added to like the fact of like how we were talking about not having to work as much. It's because you eliminate all this stupid stuff you were doing before. And that could be helping clients you shouldn't be helping. That could be doing things that you just shouldn't have been needing to, because, you know, we've all been taken advantage of and wasted a bunch of time. But like, to your point, that's exactly that's where the tranquility and peace comes from. You don't have a guy texting you right now. You don't have to go do some random thing you know, your business is there. You know, it's going to keep running, and you know, like you've made outsized returns to be able to have that peace, which I think as people who don't come from, and I don't know your background, it sounds like, yeah, my dad's like a multi-billionaire, but no, but
I didn't grow up in Poland, but we didn't have money.
Yeah. So
money.
And I think we all chase this. For me, I always use the word stability. Like I always just chase that stability. And once, you know, if you can go out to dinner and stuff like that, I think there's that first level of stability where you can kind of you have an apartment, whatever, and then maybe you get a car, whatever. But then the next step of stability is like, oh, like I actually don't have to do like, you know, pardon my language, but bitch work for other people, or like, you know, you don't have to like.
Or just like no trip about. Yeah, the dinner bill or the
I'm still like
if your car had
I'm
a
like
problem.
the appetizers. I don't know. Like I mean, but I think
where are
that's
we going dinner on Saturday, Kyle?
That's a good question.
I mean, I'm in Chicago, so we gotta eat well.
I'm down.
Am I even invited here? I don't think so. Yeah. So why are you winking at me?
I'm not invited either until right now.
Who are you going with?
I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
Okay, so
Colton, probably Colton.
Take Colton.
I don't know. Like
Colton. I think aren't you working Saturday? Maybe not. Sunday. Okay.
Never mind then, Colton.
You'll have to go with somebody else.
I just feel like you need to have this like absorbent amount, and even then you still have that like, I don't want to say imposter syndrome, but you kind of like don't want it ever to be taken away. You need to make enough to where you don't think it's gonna like be fleeting, and that's where I think certain assets and stuff are helpful, because you're like, oh well, worst case, like I could not work for a few years and I'd be all right. Like,
well, that was, I guess, maybe not to completely go back to the investment thing in the business and stuff, but I, for the longest time, was poor. And so now, like, I don't have like crazy money, but like, I feel like I just stack it up somewhat. Yeah. And my family is always like, bro, you at least got to put this in like some high yield savings account or something like that. And I know there's like probably some stuff, like I could reinvest money into the studio or to this, that, the other thing, or, you know, hire somebody else and stuff. But there's sometimes where it's like, I don't even know maybe what the best like investment would be, but like, I guess I'm just curious from a personal perspective. Neal, I know you're probably doing some big numbers. The house in Georgia's one thing, you know, the Jeep can only be so much one thing, and travel's, I guess, it. But like, do you guys sit on a good chunk, or do you invest in stocks? What do you do with the money, man?
I think
where is it?
I'm gonna. It's under a pillow. somewhere
Give
in
us
Texas.
the address.
Yeah.
He's not there right now.
He's not there. Yeah, send my data.
I think that that's also subjective, and there's so many schools of thought on this, and it's like we all obviously know that our money's crazy inflated, or currency is crazy inflated right now, and value over time goes down, et cetera. But I think actually I asked Joel for this advice, and I said, hey Joel, like, and this was the height of crypto, and I think there was this like diagram that was like the get rich quick boys, and it was like I think it was it started with what was it? It was e-com, Amazon, drop shipping, like all those
Crypto,
things.
yeah, it's
crypto, and then it was ERC recently, right? The employee retention credit stuff. And all those things, you know, like a lot of these things for a lot of people have been short-lived, right? So it's like, to me, it's just how do you build sustainable wealth, right? So it's like, what he told me, he's like, if you don't have $1 million in the bank, you don't really have to invest, because you could always take that $1 million, especially if you're an entrepreneur, and just throw that thing back in your business. So I thought it was good advice. And to me, like, I have a lot of money in the bank, and I'm okay with sitting on it, because you never know what's going to happen with, you know, with the world. But it's like, I want to be able to be in a spot where it's like, okay, I know that I have tangible assets, I have cash, and I also have my business. So, you know, so I'm diversifying in that sense, right? And you could always like buy more gold, or I buy a lot of ammo. So
I know you have gotten into guns.
Yeah.
Have you always been? I knew you got recently.
Recent? No, it's been recent.
That's cool, dude.
But it's like, it's never going to get any cheaper. Actually, probably nothing is going to get any cheaper. Let's kind of face it. Maybe temporarily there might be a dip, but
no, ammo,
modern day history, we're talking about commodities, they're always going to get more expensive, right, with time. So to me, it's like, do what feels right. Like you said, you know, you're comfortable, right?
But I guess, do you sit on a sizable amount of cash and nothing that is just kind of?
No, I mean, I have investments in a market. I have, you know, I have some crypto, which we're all waiting for that to come back up at some point.
My Dogecoin needs to pick up.
Because I, you know, it's sitting there, and you know, I'm basically, my biggest investment is my business. So Kyle was talking about throwing all the money into the business. I don't throw all the money in the business, but it's like, I know that.
Well, it doesn't sound like you totally do that even now.
Depends on what I'm doing. Like, not like I'm going to throw my money.
But
into
what is, like, as an entrepreneur, everything is kind of business, right?
Well, that's the thing. Like, it could be, if there's like an opportunity and it's like you can throw, you know, X amount of money at, like an ad. Like, if I could just run more ads, I would make more money. Then I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm getting a return on this. Maybe not like I'm going to build out this new, you know,
I guess that's
crazy.
where it's like, where it becomes more in the gray, where it's like, you know, again, with this business, like I could buy a whole nother setup and like set up another scene and maybe attract more clients that way. But it's like, you know, I don't know about that. And you, but that goes back.
That goes back to what we're talking about. It's the subjectivity of like individual success, or the definition of an individual success. It's like, I know if I want to double my business, I'm going to have to probably spend as much money as I spent last year to double my business this year, to do that again, if not more. So if I'm going to tell myself I'm going to double, but I'm going to spend less, unless I'm realizing some crazy economies of scale, unless I'm, you know, automating half my business and, you know, which people have done, I guess, then I need to understand, like, I'm going to continue to have to spend money. So it's like, I think it has to do with goals for sure. Like, understanding where you're going, super important. I'm not in a rush to like make a shitload of APR with like all my investments, right? Because it's like, and especially like at this point, I don't, like, I'm still learning things. It's like, so I'm not gonna like, you know, or real estate, I'm gonna buy like 2 Airbnbs, and then I take myself away from the business, and then,
which actually makes you money.
Which actually makes me money.
Something where like every mom and like is trying to do, you know what I mean?
And you know, like I said, I found my niche, I found my spot. I'm just gonna do what I do, and then at some point where I feel like I'm comfortable enough, not from a financial perspective, but just like time. That's the biggest currency, right? Time. I have the time to like, now I can learn about I took a course in real estate investing and like tax liens and certificates recently. And I was like, do you really have 20 hours a week to fucking do this? Like, no, you don't have 20 hours a week. Like, is it a good way to make money? Probably make 20%.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can make 30 to 40% of my business, right? Like, I'm like shiny object syndrome. Go back to work.
That's the hardest part. And I think now getting older is energy. Like you literally, what you just said, like you have to kind of like trick your brain. And cause I'm always like, oh, like I'll buy this car. I'm like, why? You know how much time it will take like to buy it, sell, fix it, sell, whatever it may be. It's like focus on the business. It's like you have to trick your brain to be like, all right, like I got to just keep pumping this back in the business. Cause I feel like people are saying it's wrong, but like if you don't have like 10 million bucks or 5 million bucks in the bank and you're trying to make some small percentage, it's like, if you just had your business and reinvested into it till it reached this critical mass, which I haven't yet, but then you can actually passively live off of the money that it returns you. Otherwise it's kind of like, well, you're taking this capital out of your business that's making an outsized return. I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people in finance have different things on it, but also keeping it, there's two things I want to touch on. Number one, keeping it in cash. Personally, I think it's a little sketchy because like then if it's like all cash, then it's like, okay, well, I don't have it diversified at all. You don't have anything hedging against inflation, which is whatever. That's why I think alternative assets like cars and watches are good. Number two is I've seen a lot of people make a lot of money and then blow a lot of money too. And like, I know like that's actually like an issue because they want to deviate. As soon as you make a bunch of money, you want to deviate from what made you the money. So it's like if I'm running some offer on Facebook ads and that's what I'm doing, but then I decide I want to go start a bakery or start getting into franchises or something because somebody's like, oh, well, you have a lot of money now. You give me $2 million and do this. I'm not saying that's on the table, but like whatever. Why would I not just keep doing what I was doing? Like, obviously you have this like leverage point and then you have this like skill set that other people don't have. Like, so I don't know. It's one of those things where if you don't reinvest in the business, I hate how people say that all the time, but it's like, okay, practical examples are hiring more people, maybe outsourcing even customer service or outsourcing like your invoicing or whatever it may be. And then maybe scaling something. Maybe, Tom starts a course. I
don't know if I could.
Oh, man. I would love that.
That was a good kick up. I did want to talk about this, right? So, as far as investments in the business, I feel like, recently enough, this space, not that you found out how
paid
much
ads,
it was.
paid
It was not
ads.
that bad.
Did I say paid ads?
Was not that much money, but this handsome gentleman over there, I pay for him now. And I think at the time, like anything, it's like, you were kind of freaking out a little bit. I remember when I had his interview, I was like, dude, I got you for like 10 hours a week or something like that. And like, hopefully I can ramp it up. And he was such a gent that he was like, that's cool, man. He's like, I'll quit my job and start working for you to do it. And so luckily now you do more than 10 hours a week for sure. But, and
we got to get Colton booked up to like 40 to 50.
Yeah.
We're probably closer to like 30-ish.
Nice.
Right? More or less 30.
So we're almost there.
And anyway, I think you look at the money and you're like, oh, that feels like a lot. Like, low key, like I could drive a fucking nice ass car. If I didn't have Colton's bitch ass. But it's one of those things that's paid off for sure. And like, he runs pretty much all the podcast sessions and like helps out so much. And so that's a new experience to me. And I know you've obviously worked with people, and it sounds like you had a team.
Now,
I know
Oliver,
you have
shout out Oliver.
You have a whole bunch of people, and
Yeah.
I think from that perspective, it's like, again, I have money kind of sitting around, and it's like, I have other investments and such too, but like, I think I've struggled sometimes where it's like, I'm cool to spend it. Like, I'm not like a hoarder in that sense. And I think that there is an abundance, and like, I know I always make more, whatever. But I think I double question myself on like, what is the best investment? And
Yourself.
yeah, okay, but past myself, because I historically am not interested in courses and stuff like that. Mentorship, and the one guy I tried to hire, he said no. But I think it
always goes back to like how you want to spend your time. Right? Yeah. I gave two examples. Like, there's people who just like, they're like want to have one of these passive income businesses and fuck off and do whatever in Bali for 6 months. And there are people like Tom Bailey who are like, I'm going to work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day plus, and that's what makes me happy. So it's like, okay, I have money. Like, am I all in for the business? Yes. But do I want to do other things? Then that's basically you're like investing into your life resume.
I want to hear about, dude, you probably have hella payroll, right?
Yeah.
And that's got to feel intimidating. But clearly that is like how businesses are like, I think there's a tendency to like, not like hold things to yourself, but like paying somebody else, or paying somebody's salary is like an intimidating thing.
Yeah.
And I think to grow to a certain point, it's like there's only so much you can do by yourself, and so you have to. But what lessons, knowledge do you have? Is it like, has everyone you hired just been like, yes, this made sense, they make money, boom, they're great? Or like, do you think is wiser to be slower with it, or what?
Well, I think in a couple of months we're going to be at like $200,000 a month payroll, which is
that's crazy.
That's epic.
Which is significant, right? But it's a positive, not a negative, because I want to pay people more. That's like one of the biggest goals of mine is like, how can I empower more individuals? Because then you're helping people. I talked about this in my last podcast with Eddie. It's like, as a business owner, you're not just helping yourself. And if you think that, or that's your only goal, you're going to fail real fucking fast, or you're going to make a lot of money and people are going to leave you because you're there for yourself. Yeah. So it's like, ultimately, I know we want to help 1 million people have like amazing body sculpting transformations. That's our big goal. I think we generate about 2,000 to 3,000 appointments a month, which is pretty cool for clients. But we're developing our own team. We're helping small business owners grow. That's a lot of the why. Mm-hmm. So then going back to like hiring people, well, when I was talking about hiring Laura, who's our director of operations, she started on right as an appointment closer and became our director of operations in a year. And that was her plan. Mm-hmm. I put it in her contract. I'm like, this is what, if you hit these KPIs, you're going to be a director of operations. Yeah. So she's made the most money she's ever made in our company because of her impact. So I basically tell everybody who comes in, this is a merit-based company. This is a performance-based company. You come in here, you're going to get paid as much as you contribute to your own performance, to our clients, overall to the business. So we promote people very frequently, like almost every 6 months. We raise pay every 6 months. We give some of our teams give like monthly bonuses. So I pay out a lot of money, but it's like, why? Because I'm in it for a long term. I could have like squeezed out a lot of profits first year, second year, third year, not reinvested. I would not be in the same place I am today. Yeah. So it's like, I think investing in your people is huge. We did our first retreat like in Lake Pleasant, in Scottsdale, Lake Pleasant, and Sedona. Like it was a nice capital expenditure. Yeah. But everybody just had an amazing time because we're a digital company. So it was like bringing these people together and like, hey, we're working towards something bigger than just ourselves is huge. So I know that to scale, you're always going to have to hire. At this point, I don't even know who we hire. Probably got somebody new that I have to set up an ADP tomorrow. Like we hire about 2 to 3 people a month. And that just comes with scale. And it's like at some point you let other people make decisions. And I trust my team leads a lot. And it's like, I know, ultimately, like I know how to build a business, but it's like, I wouldn't be able to do it without them. And it's cool because like I said, in 2.5 years, we've promoted so many people and at such a fast pace that you couldn't do it any other business just because out of need, because we're growing so fast. I'm like, okay, well, you showed a lot of effort and you solved this problem. Like, let's get you up and going. Let's pay you more so you can solve more problems so we can all make more money. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really like, it's kind of like a hedge too. Like where if you keep trying to just find the cheapest people or the cheapest help or outsource everything versus how he has it set up, it's like everyone is kind of hedging your bet to growing the company because it's not all reliant on you anymore. Like it is, but it also like, you've got all these different efforts and you people who grow their way up. And that's where I think Hormozi talks a lot about it, of how he's hired like really top tier talent and stuff. I think that's, a huge part of your success and how it keeps going. Because it's like, it's beyond you now, which is a great way to be because it's like anything else. And you kind of attach all these, it's kind of closing the gap in every single way, which is super impressive. You're at like 40, you said? Or
40.
That's insane.
40 people.
That's insane.
My goal for this year was do 50 plus. We're going to hit that goal. And an employee count is like a key indicator of success, but we're going to need that many people to sustain all of our operations. And I think I did this presentation. It was long overdue. I did this company town hall in a Zoom, and I basically said, guys, like you're all interconnected, and I'll show you how. And I basically took like a media buyer. I was like, if there's a campaign that's not performing, what is your action? How is your action going to impact your teammates? They're like, Well, I'm like, listen, this campaign is struggling. So this account manager is having problems explaining why. So let's say you put in a lot of work and you actually fix this campaign. That account manager is going to have a lot easier time with this client. The appointment closer is going to have more leads to convert into results. Then my director of operations that's going to free up her time to work on strategic projects. That's going to help me because I'm not going to need to go coach this client potentially because they're going to make enough sales. Then the account manager is going to convince the client to put in more ad budget, which is going to then increase the campaign results, and everybody's going to make more money. And then I presented it from every single position, including my own, how individual actions and responsibility can affect the rest of the team. And they're like, holy shit. Like,
that's awesome.
They're like, I see the impact, I see the bigger picture now. It's not just me and my silo. And I think 2 days later, I created a company-wide Slack channel, which was like one of the biggest mistakes of what I've done is not doing that.
Oh yeah, same.
Right? It was like just teams operating in silos, and I'm like, no. Like the only time we see all of each other is like on these Zoom happy hours, which have been wonderful. But it's, I was like, okay, we got to do a Slack channel. Like people started throwing wins. Like it was just like, finally you could see the team coming together. And then when everybody met in Arizona, it was like, wow, you guys exist.
For sure.
So that was amazing.
That's epic.
Well, so, and maybe as we somewhat approach the end here, I want to hear, just as entrepreneurs at the table, what is kind of your end goal with things, or maybe like, in 10 years, this is where I think I'll be with things. And Kyle, why don't we start with you, man?
Yeah, 10 years is tough. I'm going to be like 36. I think, thinking about like Neal. I'm kidding. All the age jokes coming. No, but I think I want to not regret what I've done for the last 10 years. And I don't want to say regret in that form, but if you take me back to when I was 16 and look at now, right? Like once you pass like 21, you start seeing people who like are younger than you doing, similar stuff, right? And that's, no one wants to see, like, it doesn't feel good, but like, now being 26, I think about it, I'm like, okay, what are the things I could have cut out of that time period that would have helped me a bunch, right? Like the maybe older people who took advantage of my youthful energy and will to, I just wanted to work and grow and whatever. And then maybe other little opportunities where I should have maybe put more emphasis on. And then, like I said, those 4 pillars of scale were just super important to me. So not ditching like everything I've ever done and learned, but focusing more on how can I make these things help me more in the future. And on top of that, the documentation part of it, whether it be YouTube, whether it be this podcast, whether it be anything, I think it's super critical because like in 10 years, what we're going to value is what we were thinking now, right? Like, and I want to just preface it back to like, even saying the word like, oh, like you're whatever, there's some kind of material success or something. It's like, I mean, not that long ago, I was like barely, I had pros and cons list of everything. And I'm still like that same person. So I feel like if somebody younger is watching, it's like they should really, if they're 10 years younger than us, their whole focus should just be like, if I just consistently work on putting in efforts every single day, it'll slowly compound. And like, if you just keep learning, reading, like it's super cliche, but like you do all those things and maybe you learn from people who are a little older than you, focus on leverage and stuff, like you can be exactly where you want. It's like, I hate it because every time the people like us get together, it's like they can't see us 10 years ago. And if they did, they'd be like, wait a second, like, come on. Like this guy was just like a young guy with like some dreams, whatever. So yeah, to your point.
Or no dreams.
Or no dreams.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think in 10 years, like I definitely would want to cross. I mean, the big goal, obviously everyone wants to cross $100 million like in some kind of business. My biggest problem.
That's a pretty big number still.
Biggest problem is figuring out sometimes, because sometimes I've been in these things where they're really high leverage and you can really build them up and then they have some kind of fatigue, right? Or I make a mistake, right? I overhire, my payroll's crazy and I start burning through cash, whatever it may be, right? But it's like figuring out what to work on, right? And in a lot of the times those things take some time to get to. Like my YouTube channel doesn't make enough money for me to live off of it. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm like a little too business oriented, but that's not to say it couldn't if I just put more time towards it and I leveraged everything that I know how to do. So figuring out what to work on, I think is probably younger people's biggest issues, right? Like just by starting, and I hate everyone's like, just start, but it's like just by starting something, whether it's like, you know, I started with dealerships. I would like cold approach them. I would had a printer in my trunk. I would take pictures of the cars. I'd edit them in Lightroom, make a proposal, print it out, and give it to them. And they'd be like, "Great, what the hell did you?"
Dude, that's dope.
All
that's
free
really
stuff,
dope.
free videos, whatever. But that's how I got all my first clients. But it was like you go to like 50 clients, and like one of them converts, and then one of them pays you $500 a week for social media or whatever, or a month, whatever it was. But like over time, you just can't lock into that one thing. Like you'd be like, for example, like Neal didn't go out and to go start like a consulting business. He niched down, and like those skills probably help him, right? My video and, you know, online skills and different things, it'll help me. But it's like, how do you just keep growing and then thinking like, well, I'm not going to get to $100 million by, you know, running an agency. Probably. I think the agency thing is great and I want to keep doing it, but like keeping that in the back of your mind. And like brands, and I know, you know, you did your stuff with supplements and stuff, and I actually maybe off camera or here will pick your brain with it. But like going into there's so many things I want to tell you, but I feel like there's so many things that you're going to learn for yourself. Because like everyone wants to start like an e-commerce company, and then I'll be like, well, it's all numbers, right? Like if you have just really quickly, like if your cost per acquisition is $30 and you're selling an $80 product, then you have $50 of gross margin, but then you think product costs, all this different stuff. At the end of the day, you're scaling like a 20 or 30% margin at best if it's a winning product. And I think a lot of people will be like, I want to start this company. I'm like, well, is there enough money to be able to scale with paid ads? Because you don't have it following. So I think it's really important to understand, like, okay, you have traffic, you have an offer, and then you essentially have like a sale. You have a Stripe account, whatever it may be, or Shopify, whatever. Sure. Like, and if you don't have those like things in line, I don't know. It's very easy to, I don't like to poo-poo on ideas, but it's just like, all right, like you'll just learn by trying, and a lot of failures.
Sure. I want to add to that because you make a good point, but we're going back to like Amazon, crypto, drop shipping, agency, ERC, all that stuff. I think that those are probably the worst things to go into. They're probably the easiest barriers to entry, but they're the worst things to go into because now the saturation is wild.
Yep.
It's wild, right? And I think sometimes you kind of come to things at the right time, and sometimes even by accident.
Yeah.
And you're like, shit, I just solved this niche problem.
Yeah.
And then you got something, right? Like you said, hey, like there's not a lot of like podcast studios in Chicago. They're just like where you can come in and book a spot and have like a professional podcast done, right? A lot of these things are done by maybe agencies or somewhere in New York.
Yeah.
And at some point, you know, the goal might be to like this place to be really booked up like all the freaking time where you have a wait list and like the hourly charges are insane. Mm-hmm. And because you've solved a problem for a local market. So I think for all these entrepreneurs, like, or people who want to be entrepreneurs, they're like, yeah, well, it's low barriers to entry. You know, there's so many successful people. Yeah. Like, I can do this easily. And they just get caught up in the shiny object syndrome once again. Yeah. So it's like, I think finding a really specific niche and solving like problems for that niche is the first step. It's just once you pick that niche and you got a good solution, you just got to stick with it, because otherwise.
And the reason why I feel like, just to kind of bring that point like to relation to everyone, is like, it's because, for example, to your credit, like back when I was starting like the agency thing and websites and photos and videos and I'll take any job ever, you also were doing that, right? That was in like 2016. Neal, like with his niching down, it's not because, oh, like the riches are in the niches, because like, oh, like you got to pick something and become an expert. The thing is, you are literally getting like, you are figuring it out for the customer. Like, in what world can you be an agency guy who goes into a plastic surgeon and you're not specialized in them, whatever, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to build your website and I'm going to do this and that. And like Neal's like getting granular with like the exact, he knows the service inside and out. He's like, whatever. So like if a customer is talking to him, he has his whole sales system built around that. It's like, you just don't have the bandwidth to be able to even support that as like a willy-nilly agency, which is where I think everything's like shifting. And the problem is like with that business model is like, I feel like nothing against it, but like every kid with a camera is like an agency now, which I'm like, that's totally cool. I just don't know if I want to be like exactly that. So it's like, how do you do that without being like just a glamorized production company too. So it's like, how can you shift into where, you know, Tom's like, oh, maybe I should start a course. But no, not like that. But like, I actually think like, I'm even thinking about it because like the podcast thing, like you scale that would be great. But I'm like, man, if he was just a consultant for people who wanted to start their podcast, like getting on calls or whatever. Anyways, to your point, I just think it's like, that should be inspiring to people. Like that is the next wave. Maybe it's not all like, you know, chiropractors and stuff like that, agencies or whatever, but it's like, how can you provide the most value? Because if you're closing an appointment and that appointment's $1,000, I'd be like, and I make $800 on it, and you're like, you have to pay me $500, like, and I'm making $300 profit, but it's repeatable. I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Right? I'm gonna say yes because I don't have appointments.
Right.
So it's one of those things where you have the ultimate leverage.
Solving a specific problem for a specific audience.
Yeah.
And doing it hands off, because we're going back to time.
Yeah.
How do we spend our time?
It's a specific result.
Are they going to learn how to do marketing?
Yeah.
Do doctors and spa owners, for example, in my niche, want to learn how to do marketing? They've tried.
I think they barely
That's
want
why I have a lot of customers.
Business. I mean, yeah, that's the thing with, you know, I think people in specialized professions, like they even having your own legal practice or dentist practice or whatever, like that's hard enough, let alone figuring out a way to acquire customers.
Right.
You know, so I don't know. I want to hear some more from you.
Give me
some more.
I don't know. I mean,
give me some more on your business
you guys
journey.
I want to hear Tom's goals. You want to talk about goals?
Well, I wasn't so much about. I know that was one of your topics.
Well, I mean, you were asking that question.
I feel like the 10 years. Yeah. Well, and
I don't think about 10 years. You know, I'm kind of the nonconformist. I don't think about 10 years. I think about this shit.
I think that's fair, but like, I guess what I'm wondering is like,
you still want an answer?
No, in 10 years.
You're like, no, you need to think about 10 years.
Do you imagine that you are like, you have sold the business, you got a big bunch of money, and now you're just doing non-for-profit work? Or is it like, I'm going to do this business, blow it up, do this for the next 30 years or start another agency? Or like, do I want to get out of the agency world and I want to do this? Do you think you're going to get into cold plunge tanks and make that a business? Like, so, and I guess I'll answer, and maybe you can
go ahead,
come up with that. I think most of the businesses I've been a part of have been somewhat of a strategic play that more or less combine like interest with opportunity. The podcast, I'm okay with podcasts. I'm not like a huge podcast person, but there's an opportunity there. Yeah. Same thing with Plastic. It got popular, so I was like, well, take something. Yeah. You did the same thing with the you know, pandemic and the gym reps. Like it makes sense. Yeah. For sure. To your point, to do video production has just gotten easier and cheaper, and like people with like you know, a $2,000 camera can make really cool videos that it's hard to like completely compete with. I think there's still tons of work out there, but like I do not think I will be 50 running this business. Like I don't think that that's just in the cards, and I don't think I'll be 50 running Chicago Podcast Studio even. So like to me, it's just like maybe, but like building blocks and just like continue to do things. Like unlike you, and unlike I think some of the best business advice is to niche down and like focus on stuff. Like I'm not as good about that. Like I kind of like doing something a little bit different. And even with like video productions, like we do a wide variety of products we shoot for. We do even projects aside from just the product stuff. Obviously with the podcast, we had people talk about all different types of things. Like I kind of like that change. So I think 10 years and just future me, I imagine myself to, hopefully I'll have amassed business success in my own businesses. And then I'd like to like invest into other businesses just from either an angel perspective or from like I guess like a venture capital perspective, but probably not like in that sense. But Shark Tank-esque things where you could be a part of things, you know, work with entrepreneurs, help them grow, and have your hands in a decent amount of stuff, but not like the boots on the ground for so many things. Cause like, I don't have a dream to like have a company of 500 people. Like to me, that just sounds like stressful and stuff like that. Like I don't know. I'm cool, slowly growing up, compiling money, and then hopefully just making strategic investments into other businesses that I'm not the sole pusher of, is where I'd like to be in 10 years.
Pretty warm-hearted guy for being a cynic. I mean, man, he's I just want to help the others.
Take money at the same time, you know. Here's a little bit of money.
Learn with Tom.
25% of your business.
Learn with Tom Brown.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where one thing, like creating commercial content will never be a bad skill set to have. It's always going to be super valuable and super awesome.
Well, and that's what's doing it now, you know. Yeah, and I'm totally fine. I still like doing it. It's not like I'm like.
I like that you offer a diverse perspective. I think that's why Kyle and I are on this side
No,
of
I
the
love
table.
it.
That's why we put you on that side.
Yeah, for sure.
Positivity. No, I don't
We're
know
like,
how I
actually,
ended up like this.
whatever you guys said, fuck you.
Well, I guess that's what I was looking
I
for.
know, that's good. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, like I said, it's subjectivity because like there's gonna be people that want to relate to you, that want to relate to me, and want to relate to Kyle, or none of us. Like that's
Especially
okay.
not Kyle.
And yeah,
That's okay.
exactly. And how you like scale things too. I think everyone has like a different like mindset of that. Like even like Rob, for example, like they're scaling the hell out of that business and it's epic.
Yeah.
But it's like a lot. It's like it depends on how you scale, right? Like super high quality, high production, red camera. Well, in whatever regard, like that's super epic. And like, for example, like I love creatives more than like, I like it more than like my own stuff, obviously. Like I would love to like actually Hashim days, I actually wanted to like hire you. I don't know if you remember that, but I actually wanted to hire you. Like not hire you, but like hire your business, like to like build an ad because I don't trust myself to like, I actually had Oliver call you. Yeah. I was like,
I know you know other Kyle too.
oh, wait, what? Another Kyle?
Kyle Yamayang.
Oh yeah. I know. Yeah. He filmed
I
my
worked with
birthday.
him for
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Cause
longest
I
time.
worked with him a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like to me, I love other creators. I think as a passion, I'll always love to do it. And like, I would never stop. It's just like, I look at it as like, if I just took away all of my clients or most of them and just focused my energy on my like YouTube and other content and I can make that like leap right now, I'm like, I think I'll be to your point in 10 years, I'll even say 5 years in 5 years, I'll be much happier with that decision. Cause if I just was like, I don't really need that much to live. I already make money doing this.
That
like,
would be sick.
Yeah,
If I didn't
like-
have to make product videos for other businesses and could just have a YouTube page that made as much money as doing the other stuff and just like do cool shit that I was interested
You're
in.
sitting next to a guy who does e-commerce. So
That
it
is what I
So
would-
maybe we should talk on that. So that's
we
one of
have
those things.
we have more things to talk about.
With-
Not
yeah.
today, but
Yeah,
we're
I
not
might just have to
completely
fly
on camera, but-
back.
Yeah,
You might, Neil.
exactly.
I don't know
I'll
why
just
you
have to fly
moved to
back.
Georgia, dude.
I'm gonna say again, I appreciate your perspective because it's different.
But
no,
you're wrong. All right, that's the vibe I'm getting there.
No, you're not wrong because that's your own internal truth, right? So I can't defute that. So for me, I think about this year, I want to accomplish my goals. That's kind of, it's the same thing about like living in the present, being able to enjoy like the process. Because when you're thinking about goals, you're like, and you give yourself like micro goals versus macro goals, and you're like, oh my God, I want to do $100 million agency, but my agency, I don't know, this year we're going to do 7, right? And you're thinking to yourself like, that's a long journey, right? Yeah. But then you're like, okay, mindset block. It's probably, I can do it. So I don't set myself up that way. I more so think about it this way. Like when people want to go and scale their aesthetics, body or facial services, they're going to come to Patient Engine and Neal.
Yeah.
And we're going to think about if we want to work with them. That's where I want to get to. So when I have an exclusive agency with a lot of amazing people, amazing clients, our slogan is your forever agency, where it's just like recurring revenue. We solve more of their problems. We dominate the niche and we do it in a transparent and honest way where we're actually helping people. We're helping our clients. We're helping our team members. And that's as far as I'm going right now. I want to have an 8-figure business. We're close. And to me, it's like, okay, this year I have a certain amount of goals. They're personal, they're professional, travel, books, retreats, all that stuff. And that's kind of where I'm living. And I think the biggest question as a business owner, at some point where you get bigger and bigger, it's like, I've been approached already to potentially exit. And it's like, do you want to do that? And I asked myself that question yesterday. I said, no, I want to cash flow. I want to build a long-term business because I love my team, right? I also have that attachment to my team because a lot of them are my friends. My brother works for us. We have sisters-in-law. We have my sales guy's mother-in-law works there. It's like a family and friends business. And a lot of our team members come from within. So it's like, it's there's more to that than just like the financial impact. It's more intrinsic impact as well. So I know that I didn't give you a clear answer on that.
That's big.
In 10 years, I think I'm going to go back to now and say, if you died today and God asked you if you've lived a fulfilling life, what would you say, Tom?
I would say yes.
Kyle?
Yeah.
Colton?
Yeah. Or maybe not, but mostly.
I think there's a lot more to go, but
He's
yeah, there's
young.
definitely
He's
Right.
even young.
No,
He's-
I'm
yeah.
saying like, so it's like, it's basically to like being present, like,
yeah.
are you doing everything you're supposed to be doing every single day? Yes, you take days off, but to fulfill or to make your life fulfilling. And I think your business is a big part of it because like so many people have bad relationship with money, and it's like, no, you can help people in an honest and transparent way, and you can make money at the same time. And that's typically where you're actually going to be the happiest.
Well, and listen, I took the afternoon off to hang out with y'all motherfuckers. So
I'm sorry.
Welcome.
Time freedom right here. This guy has it.
But anyway, gentlemen, I want to thank you for coming out. I think, is there anything else that you want? Neal, did you want to check your list? Or I think we're good, right? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think Chat. No, I'm kidding.
No, let's not do AI. Because we've done so many AI podcasts that I can't. We've already been going long enough. Poor Colton over there. He can't deal with another AI podcast, dude. Oh,
no more AI.
I think it's actually not as critical. Quick little tangent.
Okay.
Just keep working. Use it as like a helper, but it's not going to fucking solve your problems that much for now.
You were the biggest problem.
So yeah, you are the biggest problem. Like, that's how we're going to mess this up.
What did I ask? I asked Tom Bilyeu, who's like big in AI, and he's basically like robots are going to take over, which it sounds realistic, but he's the guy that has scaled Quest Nutrition, and he does impact theory. And he basically said, I said, as a CEO, how much should I use ChatGPT? And he said, well, you got to think about it this way. You have all the prompts that everybody else has. So it's how you cue the prompts to use them to your advantage. But